Alrighty then. Let's see what we got here. Whoop. Why this camera's giving me crap today? We'll figure it out. Promise you that. What's going on, everyone? Good to see everybody in there. Renee, what's going on? Good to have you in there. Ben, what's going on, brother? Good to see you in there. Lancaster, hello, Chris. What's going on? Robert Wallace, last video looks like a part of a military bunker. Yeah, you're kind of right about that, the way it goes up and over. Kind of has that weird kind of bunker look like kind of thing going on. Not sure, though, but... Mort, be out. What's going on, man? Good to see you in there. Renee, pump it up. Anti-gravity. Hi, Chris. From Not Your Planet. Corn Brush. Hey, guys. What's going on, Corin? John Beck. Hello, everyone. Daniel Webbs. Hey, Chris. What's going on, Daniel? Good to see you in there, man. Brett. Hi, all, he says. Naturally. Whoa, we're live. Good to see you back, Chris. Been looking forward to this one. Looking forward to this. Good to see you in there, Nacho. Occupy Mars. Let's do this. Let's see. Stan, what's going on? Good to see you in there. Larry Lobo. Man, everybody's jumping in here today. Philip Withington. Hi, well, hello, Chris. How are you? Let me go ahead and make this bigger. These are always smaller for some reason. Don't know why, but they are. Did you hear about the India crash on the moon? Yes, I did. In fact, I was watching it I think it was from 3:30 to 4:30. It's supposed to be roughly around there. Might have been a hair bit earlier. They were trying to kick it off. From what I gathered, from what I did, I was actually just kind of watching the thing and taking some notes on it there. As I was watching the ISTRAC, they call it the Bengaluru live, and basically it's the telemetry tracking and command network, India's network, and it was kind of weird, man, because I was watching. It's right around 4:20 p.m. Eastern time. The Vikram, they call it the Vikram, Vikram. I'm sorry, yeah, KRAM. Lander was off track. I don't know if you guys noticed that. If you were following it live, it literally showed like it was doing this here. It was going. It's supposed to go down like this, but it actually was short. It came short of its landing site. So I'm not sure what's up with that. And then at 4:37, it says the orbiter was receiving data from the lander, and then 4:47. I wrote down notes here, guys. The Vikram lander was it was like 2.1 meters from the surface. Ground station lost communication from the lander, and then of course the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi addressed the nation at the ISRO Control Center, and he says, well, when it comes to our space program, the best is yet to come. Now. Yeah, I mean, I give them props for that, man. These guys, they're doing their thing, trying to go up there. But you know me, guys, I'm a little dubious about stuff like that. All these, some of these countries like, China or whatever it may be, they claim that their rovers either took a dump or it landed wrong. Now, it's a very good possibility that it did actually land in the wrong spot. Therefore, it crashed and wasn't what they thought it would be, or not the area, right? It's possible it landed on a small hill or mountain and it just tumbled and fell, and that was the end of that. It's really hard to tell, right? But yeah, I was actually sorry to hear that. I was just like, well, these guys are doing it, props to them for doing it. And then all of a sudden, so of course, like I said, is it possible that it still landed and they're just not saying anything? Keep in mind, it was the South Pole, right? So God only knows what they may or may not find there. It's hard to tell. But like I said, they're not making these trips for no reason, right? And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, let me see what we got here. There was the actual Chang'e or Chang'e, depending on how you want to pronounce it, was part of the first phase, which is basically the Chang-1. I don't know if anybody knew that they had too many missions, but it was basically part of the first phase and conducted research from about 62 miles or 100 kilometers. It was high off the lunar orbit in preparation for the December 2013 soft landing by the Chang-3 lander and rover. And so yeah, I was kind of like, oh really? So yeah, so basically it crashed. At least according to them, it did, and they didn't get any more data from it, so they assumed that was it. They lost it. That was pretty much it. Let's see. I did not show. I did actually see that the UFO they talked about in the UK. I actually looked at it briefly. I was in and out of the room. I did actually see that. That's pretty wild because it did show it, and then all of a sudden it was gone. Right? They said they was it on the news or something they put on there, and then all of a sudden, boom! Nobody heard anything from it. All of a sudden, right? A little bizarre. I was actually Ben Harlow. You said, "Where'd you get that hat?" Actually, my daughter gave it to me. I think it was a Father's Day gift, and it's got SpaceX in the back, stuff like that. So, cool hat. I was like, "Yeah, sweet." Maud Piat, you said, "Good to be here with these great people." Yeah, you guys are guys. You're awesome. I mean, everybody talks amongst themselves. We ask questions. That's how it's supposed to be, right? That's the way these things are supposed to go down. Stephen Fike, you said, "What's up, brother? How are you doing?" I'm doing just fine, Stephen. Good to see you in there. Richard, hi, Chris. Hope all is well. Loved your last video. Appreciate it, Richard. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. Well as well. Stan Bradley, don't forget to hit the like button. Smash it. Daniel says, "Hello, everyone." Digger, how you doing, Chris? I'm doing fine, Digger. Appreciate you being in there, man. Let's see. All righty. Dino running Rampage 25. Hi, Chris. How are you? I'm doing just fine, man. Good to see you in there. Miss Hurd's in there. Good evening to you. Phil Cox with daughters Jessica and Kelsey Brian. I'm sorry, Brown. I was just looking at the next name next to it. Kind of confused me there, but he's saying hi, Kenneth. John Paul Jones, Heidi Ho, and Hot Diggity. Robin Phillips, you put on there UFO over Ireland reported by BA and others. Brian Norton, hi Chris, what's up? Doing fine there, Brian. Good to see you in there. Yes, Philip, we can see you. I said, can you all see me? I am on my computer now, hoping this is working. Absolutely, I can see you. I'm sure everybody else can as well. Robin Phillips, yeah, still on your case over how much obvious stuff you missed. Well, keep in mind, I try to do I know some of you guys say, well, some of the other stuff was obvious as well, but I try to do the things that would stand out the quickest for people. Now, some people see other things, and that's awesome. And believe it or not, I'm actually glad that you guys are seeing some things that are different than I'm seeing, because that's, again, it's like a collaboration type thing, right? You're seeing these things, we're pointing it out. In fact, you guys were awesome when you on the comment section saying, "Oh man, you ought to see this, and this looks like stairs, and this looks like whatever." Had that kind of stairway looking thing to it and all that. So, I tell people, don't get mad over it. The whole point is, it's like, if you're seeing things that I'm not, well, that's the whole thing. Share it all, and that's what we'll all learn from it. And sometimes I'll do it purposely. I've done videos where I say, "Guys, I'm going to show you something, but I'm not going to tell you what I think it is." I'll just circle the item, and then I'll just, and then you guys will answer every now and then. And I might do that coming up soon. Because once in a while, it's like a every blue moon type thing. It's like you get somebody saying, "Well, you're being suggestive, so therefore they're repeating you like they're parrots." It's like, no, I don't think that's the case at all, because a lot of you guys see things I don't even see. So how is that working out for them, right? Yeah. Everybody else is seeing you there, Phil. Well, I appreciate that, Daniel. You said your last two presentations were awesome. I appreciate that. All right, David Binns. Hi, all. Hey, Chris. We'll try to listen as long as possible. Long days travel to work in 8 hours' time. I hear that, man. It sounds like you're pretty busy, so I appreciate you stopping anyway, right? Skeptic Optimist. Hello from Canada. What's going on? Good to see you in the Skeptic Optimist. Michael Stark says, "What's up, Chris and everyone? Happy Sunday." Bob Hope. He said, I pointed my CCTV cameras to the sky after seeing two dark gray balls flying past silently. I never. I need hard evidence for people to believe me. Yeah, sometimes that's what it takes, man. You just gotta, And I'll tell you what, though, you get the evidence right. That's pretty sweet, and put it in every, newspaper that will actually post it, right? That'd be pretty awesome to see. Mark Lewis, hi Chris from UK. It's nice to be back here on a Sunday hangout, guys. I agree with you, man. I just like I was watching a couple movies earlier, and I'm saying, man, I said, yep, it's coming up. Can't wait. Let's jump in there. This thing just jumped up on me again. Give me. Elizabeth Happer or Haper. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Love your channel. Watch every post. You rock. Give me a shout out, please. There's your shout out, Elizabeth. Appreciate you being in there. Skeptic Optimist, is there any way of getting your hands on untouched photos? You can, it says, always amaze me. Well, I wish we could all do that, right? Unfortunately, that's all we get is the whittled down resolution and covered over, photos, and it sucks, but it is what it is, right? Not a whole lot we can do about that. Daniel, you said, did you see that little UFO? You didn't comment on it at the time, but in the background, there's a tiny UFO that seemed to come from the surface. It probably wasn't little. It was probably very far away. Are you talking about the one from Mars, Daniel? And I think you're not the first person that said that. Mort Piat says also, hey, Elizabeth. You're welcome. I'm Canadian. Well, good to see you, Elizabeth. Yeah, naturally, yeah. He's basically saying, telling you, Elizabeth, we got people from all over here. I'm from Denmark. Oh, yeah, we got Ireland, Scotland, Denmark, you name it. We've got them all, man. It's awesome. I get asked that every now and then, Phil. Phil Cox with daughters Jessica and Kelsey Brown. Chris, what would you say is your best find on my? I don't know. I don't know if I have a best one. I've gotten there's photos where I think I put on there. Trying to remember what the name of that one was because there's several. Trying to figure what the best one would be. I don't know if it was a smoking gun type thing I put on there for a title, but it was basically, it was from the Opportunity. It's just one of them that I remember. Actually, there's several that looked like some kind of vehicles that was from the Opportunity rover. It looked like they were washed down this inside of this crater wall. And that was pretty wild. When I saw it, like I said, I showed a couple friends before I even told them where the picture even came from or where it is, from. Excuse me. And like a lot of them said, it looked like some kind of military jeep. And, it's funny because they'd actually laugh before they answered. They're like, dude, it's almost like they were afraid to answer. And I was like, there is no right or wrong question or answer rather. Just, the question is thrown out, answer the best way you can. Right. So it was funny because they would go, it looks like a Jeep. I said, dude, that's exactly what I thought. And there's like two or three cars that would look like vehicles of some sort. And this thing's like on its side. You can see what looked like the windshield of the headlights and all this other stuff. And yeah, it's just now, again, is it just a pareidolia playing games with us? Or is it something that's actually there? I see a lot of stuff that we see on this planet And if we are originally from that planet, when you can kind of understand if they come here, if we came to Earth at one point, then we'd have the same kind of ideas, wouldn't we? I don't know. Um, or the wheel is I'm going to use the term universal, right? Uh, we've had the wheel since when, and we still have the wheel on the most modern day cars and planes and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's going to continue to be like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had some kind of vehicle to get around. Doesn't matter how it's powered, but just some kind of vehicle to get around wouldn't surprise me in the least bit, right? But that's just one of them. To answer your question, as far as uh, one of the best ones I've seen. I've seen all kinds of things look like mechanical parts. It looks like what was that other one too? It kind of looked like almost like not a Stonehenge, but it looked like walls standing up, and they were like four sides but no ceiling to it, and it would look like a doorway through it and everything else. I mean, the stuff's there. I mean, is it just coincidental you can find something that has four walls and they're flat and they're the same height as well, and it just has no ceiling and a doorway? I guess nature could do that, but it seems a little weird if we had shown that picture to a couple of archaeologists or whatever it may be, and they say, "Oh yeah, it looks like an ancient ruins." Yeah, but if you say it's from Mars, oh yeah, it's just rock. That's all it is. Oh really? Um, See how that works, right? Mr. Wayne, I am from New Jersey, USA. Good to see you in there. I'm Brian Norton, just Ohio here. Hello, neighbor. Good to see you in there. Let me see. Okay, you guys are talking with each other there. Okay. Photography, light and magic. I really enjoy talking to you all. Most of the people I know doesn't seem to have the same level of enthusiasm I have for Mars. They all think I'm nuts. Well, again, you're going to have that because a lot of these people, believe it or not, like I said, they're just average people. They get up in the morning, shower, shave, whatever they do in the morning, go to work, come home, have dinner, watch their sitcoms, go to sleep, repeat. And that's pretty much, they don't think outside the box, or they're just not interested. And that doesn't mean that they're naturally, they're just bad people or naturally bad people. It just means that they haven't been introduced to it. Maybe they haven't seen it. If I've showed some of my friends, oh yeah, that's wild, man. I always thought about something like that, but I never really looked into it. Well, then they start getting into it. So, power of suggestion, right? Um, and that's the thing. You get them interested, and then they get hooked, and they start doing their own, investigation, researching, and stuff like that into these photos. Some of them go, it's kind of cool, and then next, that's it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And then, of course, you got people who actually, want to get into it because they just find it fascinating, right? Uh, Cask, you put on the hello, Chris, and all of you in the room, and Reader's Digest. Bellatina38. Hello, Chris. I really enjoy watching your videos. Fascinating for sure. A little late coming into the chat. What do you think about lost signal, Indian spacecraft, and the UFO over UK? We were just talking about that, Bella, Tina. We were just talking about that. It's I applaud them for doing what they did. I mean, they were trying to go to the South Pole. They were 2.1 kilometers from the surface. I don't know if something went wrong. It looked like they were flying just short, and because they were doing that, they had the almost like course and find kind of entry and stuff like that. And they rotated the craft to land the Vikram lander, and they were coming down. And like I said, it looked like they went short of their actual landing site. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it was going down like this, but yet it was just short of it. And it was in the red. So I don't know. I think they knew that, and this thing was off, off track, so to speak. It wasn't at its destination. So, like I said, a lot of these space agencies, I mean, think about it. I could just say, if I was them, I could just say, yeah, it crashed and burned or whatever, exploded on impact. It didn't land properly. Okay. Nobody needs to know a thing about the mission after that. Now, I'm not saying that's what they've done, but it makes you wonder, right? Because it could have just soft landed, could be just in perfect shape. It was doing absolutely fine up till, like I said, it was like within 10 minutes time, the thing went totally, that was it. Lost communication with ground control. and because it was relaying through the orbiter, I believe, and then nothing. So then they talked about it. It failed, so on and so forth. But I applaud them for getting up there and doing it, man. It's tough to do that, right? So I'm hoping they are actually telling the truth and not actually just BSing the people, right? Let's see. This thing just jumped up on me. Let's go back here a little bit. Mr. Wayne, you're saying covered up UFO crash. I don't know. No, I'm sure. I'm not sure what they're doing there, right? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing there, Emperor 6979. Do you find it suspicious that many nations trying to land on the moon or Mars fail within 1 to 2 minutes to go with losing contact? Yeah, because the most toughest part of the mission, one, is to get to either the moon or Mars, right? And then, of course, it separates from the actual orbiter, the lander itself does. And then, of course, it has to come in it has to come in a certain direction, has to rotate and come into a soft or fine landing. And it just right there, it was actually descending perfectly. And then all of a sudden, nothing. Now the only conclusion I can come up to, if they did go short of where they were supposed to land, might have been on a mountain, some kind of hill, and just tipped right over and it lost communication. Who knows, right? So it's tough. It's really tough to tell. Dave Jones, hi Chris, top man. Appreciate you being there, Dave. Thank you very much. Atomic Immortal. Yeah, as a UFO community, we need to work with each other over to prove our reasoning, not tear each other to shreds. Well, it's true. I mean, as long as you can keep it down to a dull roar, I don't care, what the topic's about, or who's shown it or whatever the case is. But yeah. Well, Piat, the real Jimmy has shown water on Mars. Yes, he has, and he'll do like an animation sometimes, and he'll show and color them certain areas. And yeah, I mean, I know which one you're talking about because he showed. It almost looks like wavy dirt, like a dune type thing, right? But then when you really look at it, I mean, it's coming between look like two rocks. Could have easily been water, but they make it look like it's some kind of duney, sandy area. I mean, couldn't it be waves too? Kind of looks the same way. If you look at these kind of dips and stuff like that, and crest in this sand, how do we know? You can take a picture. It's like, it looks just like it, and just color it sand. There you go, right? Brian Norton, Chris, what do you think about the retired guy from Area 51? Can't remember his name. Wanted to start a new space program with open book. Trying to remember who you're talking about. Oh man, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think I know who you're talking about. It's not coming to the top of my head there though. Nathan Bond, you said, where's the best place to find those Moon and Mars pics? You can go on there. I can give you a link to that. Let me see as far as where I get mine. You can go to several different places. You can go to Midnight Planets. You can go to, and this will usually show you the latest. It's basically, it works in conjunction with NASA and stuff like that. There's one of them right here. This is Midnight Planets. And usually when you go onto the site, it automatically will go to the most recent Sol or, Martian day. And you'll see the latest. And you can go in there and click on, content. And when you click on content, it'll have like Curiosity, Opportunity, and Spirit. They won't have any Sojourner, which was back in 1997. They won't have that because it was basically, it failed in no time, at least according to them, because it was a very small rover, right? So it just come off the lander and basically it was so small, it basically ran into a bunch of big rocks, and that was the end of that. It was just failed completely. Let's put it that way. So you can check that out. And I'm trying to remember you can go to also, which is the same thing. You're pretty much going to find the same. I'll just go ahead and give you this link there as well. If I can find it, probably won't. I got it on the other computer over here as well, but I don't have it here. Let me see here. Okay, that's the same page here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Midnight Planets is the best place to get it. And if you want to, you can also Google like LRO or Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter photos of the moon, and it'll bring you, and then just hit, photos like when you're on Google, and it'll show you everything you need to see. I mean, it's just a ton of photos, some really good, high quality, and some, what you kind of expect, right? Thing jumps again, so now I have to go back. Robin, I guess you putting on there, it's supposed to be LRO, because you got the LOR, prove that there are intelligent structures on the moon. The establishment and religious establishments are shitting themselves over the truth of this. Uh, this has been known for 40 years. Absolutely. I mean, and they knew that plus. It's probably longer than that, because keep in mind, we had manned missions back in the, late 60s, but they also had missions long before that in the late 50s, long before any man just, left Earth and went to the moon. They were going to Mercury, Mars, all over the place. And so they either send flybys by Mars or Mercury, Pluto, you name it. They've been everywhere. And this is no secret. I mean, even the Soviet Union was doing the same thing back in the day. Of course, there was a lot of failed missions between, the United States, Soviet Union, at least Soviet Union back in the day. And so now, you can understand it. But why the urgency? It's almost like they found one thing. If they found anything on the moon, and think about this, you're a space agency. You see something, you just happen to be stumbling on. This is years ago. You happen to be looking at it with a very large telescope. I'm talking about like, these ones of these observatories. And you happen to look at, what is that? And you're looking and you're just going, holy shit. So you obviously you want to get there as soon as you can, but then you go, wait a minute. If there's something on the moon that's not ours, and you can tell it's been there for years, yeah, come on. You got to say to yourself, then clearly there's got to be something on these other planets and moons, right? Let's have a look. And that's basically what it comes down to. And that's what they've been doing all this time. Yeah, yeah, Mr. Wayne. Yeah, Jimmy just had that Mars 3D podcast. It's cool how he does that, because basically put your finger in there and you can actually see a 3D kind of thing pop in and stuff like that. That was a good video to kind of show people how to do that, right? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Renee, there you are. Hi, Chris. Yesterday, P&K Space Imaging live stream. And what I think, there was a crater with two oval openings on the edge like a door. There's so many things that are either in craters, on the side of craters, just crazy things. In fact, Joe from Art Alien TV, he had done trying to remember what it was. It was something in one of the craters, and there's more things too. They were on the outside of the craters and all kinds of stuff, and he brought that out really, really well. Did a great job on that. I mean, it's no secret, guys. This stuff's all over the moon, but like the average person can look at it, with their telescope and go, "Oh, yeah, I see craters and maybe a little something," but you can't zoom in it that close. Nobody can do that. If you're using a very large telescope from an observatory, yeah, you'll get a whole lot better shot of getting in that. There's just no way around it. Phil Cox, you put on there, I truly believe that there are that the things we see in the pics are actually things. Pareidolia was first used in 1994 in an article for Skeptic Mag. Yeah, and that's the thing. I hate even using that word, right? Because that's the first thing NASA will say. Hey, if you showed them a photo with something that's, not a rock and clearly looks mechanical, whatever it may be, right? And you showed it to them, that's your pareidolia. I love how they just make up words just to like, make everybody just look like they, lost it. But yeah, how many thousands of people can look at that? I know it's mass pareidolia. Come on. Nathan Bond, you said cheers. Keep up the good work. Thank you. SC, hello, Phil. You saying? Marcel Boucher. How you doing? Doing fine. Thanks for being in here, Marcel. Robin Phillips. You put on anyone who has seen ruins on Earth can see what's on Mars. Moon is so obvious. Landing is difficult, as the Apollo landings showed. There is water on Mars, plants, trees, never straight in. Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. Water cycles on Mars. There's definitely water on Mars. They found big lakes underground. I think one was like a mile long. It's right next to the North Pole. There's so much there to see, guys. I mean, I don't know why they don't just come out with the truth. I don't even care if, well, I do, but I mean, if they said, let's keep aside all of the ruins, we're going to use the term, and these anomalies that don't belong on that planet, let's say they put all of that aside and they said, okay, yes, there is a water cycle, which they've already admitted. One of the guys that works in the team, the Curiosity rover team, has already stated this. He's the one that works on the drill. And they said, yeah, there's actually a water cycle in Gale Crater. And then they said, well, by the way, we found trees and small bushes and whatever. Why not? It's just organics. Okay, so there's your life if they just want to go to that extent, but they won't even do that. And we know there's something on the planet. We know there's more than that. Let's see. Bob, what was it? Cold in space and starving freezing? Well, I don't think we'll have to worry about it being he's a dummy there, but is it cold in space? I guess it depends. If you're out there and you're wearing black, you might be very absorbent. If I don't know, and I'm kind of making a joke out of this, but even the astronauts will tell you when they're in the lander and stuff like that, when they come back off of the moon and stuff like that, they literally were rotating purposely so that once part of the craft wouldn't heat up. So it had like an even kind of heating on the exterior of the craft, and they did that purposely. So they were constantly rotating. I don't know how fast. I don't think they stated that, but it literally would just enough to almost like a rotisserie, right? But as long as they don't get cooked. But they literally would just actually do that. So yeah, it does. The objects in space will get hot. Yeah, Chris Steed, you put on there player one. Why player one? Why do we need their confirmation? We already know. When they want us to know, they will reveal themselves to us. Fook the government disclosure. Well, yeah. See, that's the thing. I mean, I think they're slowly letting it out anyway, right? Between the Pentagon videos and what everybody's seeing in the world now. A lot of these crafts may be ours, maybe secret crafts, and we're just thinking it's a spacecraft from outer space, some kind of UFO. But these things being seen long before uh, our supersonic jets, stuff like that, and our SR-71. Long before that, although that was in the 50s that come out, and of course it wasn't. Everybody was suspect about it, but it was like they suspected it, but it was like in 95 or 97 they finally admitted to the actual uh, public that it was. Now it's no longer secret, but you can imagine that thing was drummed up long before then, because even it come out in the mid 50s, and I'm not sure exactly what year in the 50s, but it come out. So now you've got, they had to build these, they had to come up with the plans, put it into play, so on and so forth. So it takes a while. Of course, they got to test it, and then finally they come out with it, and so where they can fly the thing, right? And so these guys have been working on this stuff long, long ago. So you know what? How do we know what they've got today, right? Let's see. Photography, light, and magic. Any advice for someone who is going to start a new YouTube channel about Mars? All I can say is just do it. I mean, there's plenty of people that just jump right into it, and as long as it's like me. What I do is I find photos and I go, okay, I see something in there that clearly doesn't look natural, or at least borderline not natural, and what I'll do is I'll go, okay, can I bring it out better? And if I can bring it out better, great. If I can't, it gets thrown aside. It's not even worth my time, nor is it worth you guys watching it. So there's many photos I've been through. I mean, that's the reason why sometimes I'll be looking through photos, and then I'll say, okay, I got a video ready for these guys. And I'm going, man, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it whole, to the point where I can it's with the ease. In other words, you guys can notice this with ease, right? So I just go next and I get rid of it. And then but that's the way to do it. Just jump in it with both feet, do the best you can to subscribe and describe it rather. Unless of course you're using kind of music videos behind it, which is not a whole lot of people like that. A lot of times they liked, you can do that if it's a tasteful music and it goes with the video. But a lot of people, you can see a lot of them are doing, commentary and stuff like myself and a lot of other people are doing so. But I don't see why there'd be anything to hold you back or anybody back. Alf Diamond, you put this NASA guys know what people like Chris are doing with their picks, and they're working on it according to Jimmy Roberts. Well, my thing is, I think what they've been doing, and I've seen this happen, where I've gotten a photo way back in the day, and I've got an external hard drive, and I'll go, oh, okay, well here's the same photo I've got, and what I'll do is I'll go to my hard drive, I'll pull it up, and go, why do these look different? I mean, completely washed. The photo's completely washed with almost virtually no detail at all. You can barely see the craters. Now, don't get me wrong, every photo has probably come out of there has been washed in some way, but to the degree you can't see anything, doesn't make sense. So it's almost like they're going back and knowing that, okay, people have Photoshop now. They're going to pull the stuff out with ease. Let's do something back, go back over them or pull them off the sites, whatever it may be. Think about it. And I've seen this happen. I've noticed them, where totally different. I mean, washed out and hardly, like I said, hardly any kind of detail whatsoever, right? Yeah, I misheard. Yeah. Exactly, Chris. Thousands see the very same thing, not pareidolia. And that's the thing. It's like, people are not stupid, but they want to make people believe that. It's like, well, they don't know what they're really seeing. So therefore, obviously, if you see a rock, it's a rock, just common sense. But when you see like a pipe or something sticking out of a rock, yeah, it's a pipe. There's no way around it, or some kind of mechanism or something that just doesn't look right in there. And when you got like layered rock, it's layered rock. But when you can take some kind of like I said, a texture, like in their own Photoshop or whatever they have, and I'm sure it's a lot more superior than the average person has in theirs, and literally can just take and just put it over an object. Well, now it looks like a rock. They got and I heard this years ago. They have like a rock mimicking software where they can literally cover things and make them look like rocks. But if you look at them carefully, you can see things that are like outside shape of something inside that rock. So it's like it's been plastered over, but you can still see the lines to it. That's what you got to look for. Yeah, play it one. That actually does look like a good movie. Anyone pumped up for that Brad Pitt movie, Ad Astra? That looks pretty darn good. I'd like to check that out. That does look good. Neil Spaulding, you said Sol 2508. There's a UFO in the image, in his image, first page of the Midnight Planets link you posted. Yeah, yeah. There's some crazy stuff in there, man. So now, don't get me wrong. You gotta really analyze these. Some of them can be like a dead pixel or burnt pixel. Like get those too. And you also have there's actually an artifact, and I believe it's a left mass cam, um, or the nav cam. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now, but it actually looks like a little UFO. And people see this all the time. Oh, it's a UFO. It's not. It's an actual artifact, and it has like it's just straight across. It goes down like this, and goes back. It's this weird little artifact in the camera, and so you got to be careful of those. Oh, you've seen it, Phil Cox? You've seen it? I've already. I have. It's really good. Might be talking about something different there because you're replying to Slayer Chalk. Exactly, Mr. Wayne. It's because of the thermal coefficient and expansion, the difference between how things can get cold, they shrink, and how things right. Exactly. It's the same thing like a lot of these supersonic jets, right? It's like a lot of these jets. They literally, when you put fluids in them, they literally start leaking all over the ground. So they got to like fill everything up before it takes off. And then once it gets up to speed, everything expands and everything stops leaking on the craft. But the second it goes down and lands back again and starts cooling off, it automatically starts to leak a lot of fluids. There's a reason for that. They don't want it to overexpand. And of course, it's just going to rupture everything. So they've got it down pat where they get these things just right. Chris Steed, what's up? Chris and Mars Anomalies and beyond. What's going on? Chris, good to see you in there. Yeah, Dan, you're right about that. One person made up the word pareidolia. Yeah. Christy, the government is revealing. It's called the trickle effect. Once we reach the right point of enlightenment and it is safe to, without causing mass panic, it will all come to view. Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is desensitize people to this stuff, right? They're literally little out here, a little bit out over there, a little bit over there. So people go, well, yeah, I remember that Pentagon videos, or I think there's more than one, where they literally show these what looks like this UFO, this unidentified flying object, and people are it's getting used to the fact of that, right? And they're starting to see that, and that's what it's all about. So it's desensitized the people slowly and don't shock them to the point where they're like, like the original War of the Worlds broadcast on radio, people literally jumping out of buildings and killing themselves. We don't want that. We don't want mass hysteria. You know what I mean? MC Gamer. Hey, Chris. Hey, community. What's going on, MC Gamer? Good to see you in there. Yeah, Lancaster. I'm the same way. He said I'm not not too big on somebody's weird choice of techno music on videos. Yeah, like I said, you got to put it tasteful. If it's a long video, it's got to be something that's I don't know if you want to call it like not even jazz, something like real slow or something like that. But and I'm not a big fan of those either, right? I would just assume if you don't want to show your face on the video, then you don't have to, and then just do it like that because it helps, show the people your thoughts and everything else. It kind of helps people along. And sometimes you just want people to find the stuff themselves, so you can do that too. Like I said, I might do one of those pretty soon too. Just kind of circle the thing. Guys, I'm not telling you what it is or what I think it is. You guys, I always tell you guys get the last say. Tell me what you think it is. So that'd be, every now and then I like to have, I like to do that, but I haven't done it in a while. So yeah. WTF is that? Evening, Chris and chat. How much have I missed? LOL. Hoped everyone had a good weekend. Yeah, well, we talked about the India's failed mission, which was great up to about 2.1 kilometers from the surface, and then lost communication. Talking about different things, you know, um, just here and there. Jump right in. Limey watches in the house. Good to see you, in here, Limey. Christy, thank you, sir. Thank you for the support. Studios Realism. Hi, Chris. What's going on? Good to see you in there. Shep is also in the house. What's going on, Shep? Good to see you in there. Hello from Germany. Hello, Mark. Good to see you in there. I know it's kind of late for you guys, so I appreciate you being in there. Miss Pettigrew, can't wait for the full disclosure. I love what I'm seeing on the moon. There's a lot of crazy things on there. You can see everything from the LRO photos to stuff that's like really right there, and you can see where they've doctored up some of these things. What I love about those photos is that you get a lot of because the LRO is only like 75 miles off the lunar surface. You get to see some crazy things, and a lot of people are doing some great things, their own work, stuff like that. So yeah, I love it too because, and I think a lot of people can agree to that because it's the closest rather celestial body, right? The moon has always been something that people want to know more about, be able to see more of, and so on and so forth. So yeah, Taft's in the house too. Shamay, Chris, what's going on? Good to see you in there, brother. Yes, Robin Phillips. Yeah, SR-71 at Farnborough, and 87 leaked fuel. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these crafts are like that. I mean, these, anything high speed, supersonic, whatever it may be. Even some of the subsonics did that, where they literally would leak all kinds of fuel on a tarmac. Once they got into the air and went X amount of speed, everything would just, literally expand and stop leaking, pretty much. So you can understand why they had to get them in the sky pretty fast and get up to speed, right? Bad enough these things burn fuel like there's no tomorrow. Let me see. William Johnson, you said, hey, Chris, made it today to the Hangout. Good to see you there, William. A lot of people are like, yes, because it's earlier, so it makes sense, right? Yeah, Josh DeLista, I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing it right. Forgive me if I'm not. But partial disclosure will give rise to wild speculation and worse. They should be straight. And I agree. I mean, it's like they're just letting it slip out, and then it's almost like they're doing. It's like a big test, right? They're trying to see what they can go. Well, let's see the way people react to this stuff, right? So let's let things out slowly and see how they react. I think they should just take a simple poll, right? Put it right on the NASA site, space.com site, all of these astronomy sites. Put it on there, and then take a poll. Would you be freaked out if you seen a UFO tomorrow, or if you thought that there was alien life out there? Would you, truthfully, would you be freaked out? I don't think the average people wouldn't anymore. Just because of the movies we see today, it's like everybody's getting desensitized. But seeing something in the flesh, meaning something right over your head, kind of makes people a little freaked out. So that's a tough one. It's just they need to take more polls like that and find out. Most people would probably say, well, I may be a little nervous, because we're watching Independence Day. Yeah, what's the first thing that comes to mind if you've seen something like that, right? You'd freak out. So yeah. Daniel Webster said, I think people have advanced quite a bit past War of the World. I think, although some may be shocked, the vast majority of people already know what we're doing here. Yeah, I mean, it's we've come so far because that was that in the 40s? The original broadcast, radio broadcast, War of the Worlds, and like I said, people freaked. Why? Because it wasn't anything like we have today. So people this is weird because they said people would just turn on their radios and just tune into it, so they wouldn't hear the part about. By the way, this is only a broadcast. This is fictional. Blah 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 blah. So they didn't hear any of that. So right off the bat, they're going, "Oh my God!" Well, actually, and you're gonna hear air raid sirens and everything. And people are literally jumping out of buildings. But now, as we come so far, there you go. And people have come a long way as far as being desensitized. But I think if they've seen something rather large, like in Independence Day, I don't know. I think they'd kind of freak out about that. But I think if they told people, yes, we're in contact with these people, they're not trying to kill us off in any way, shape, or form. We're good as far as that goes. I don't think people would freak out. I think they'd be a little nervous, but I don't think they'd freak. I doubt it. Robin Phillips, you put on the MRO info no longer on regular release. Well, believe it or not, though, I mean, if you do the math, and if there's a guy that actually does a lot of gigapans, Neville Thompson, he'll tell you they're like 30 days behind. So when he tries to get the high resolution photos, they don't come out for like a month. This is the reason why you get the low res first, right? So even a month, you're thinking, okay, it gives these guys plenty of time to doctrine these things up if they want to have it just right and look the best that they can. And like I said, they had laid off like 250 people in their CGI department. Okay, laid off. So how many people are still in there? And this was JPL, I believe it was. And I'm going, so how many people are actually in that darn department? Oh my God. So just makes you wonder, right? Christy, you put on the I love the hat, Chris. But can't we do here what Elon is trying to do on Mars? Seems like contradictory spending. Well, yes and no. I think it's almost like NASA said, well, let's just step back. Let's all these other either other countries or people we can subcontract to do this stuff for us. Now, Elon's working with NASA. He's taking supplies to the ISS, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, we can do the same. I think they're actually doing other things like NASA and these other space agencies, and then letting the smaller fish, so to speak, like Elon and stuff like that, do the smaller missions, like going to the ISS and so on and so forth. This simple stuff. But that doesn't mean Elon doesn't want to go to Mars. He wants to go to Mars in a big way. He says he would like to die there. So that's telling me he wants to get there pretty badly. For what reason? Maybe he just thinks it's kind of like first man on the moon, right? Largest step for man. So that would be pretty neat. Okay, Philip. Yeah, you said it's October 30th, 1938. You Googled that, didn't you? I hate when this thing jumps up like this. Paul McCoon. Hi, Chris from Bangor, Northern Ireland. Good to see you in there. Waving a big old hand across the big pond. We got guys from everywhere, man. This is awesome. Neil Spalding, yeah, you said, will you ever go over some of the Pluto images? Well, unfortunately, fortunately, I had already done a couple of videos on that. If you look up Pluto, go in and just search my videos. But they don't have a whole lot of them out there. I mean, they've got X amount, but you can see they're heavily doctored up. That's the problem, too. I have seen one that was pretty darn good, where they show it's pretty close and it has the ice sheet, and there's some kind of weird looking anomalies there as well, almost looks structural. So I might have to look back into that. Yeah, more you've seen it too. I just watched a video of Chris's of Pluto. It was great. Yeah, I actually have a couple of them because I think I was talking about the heart shaped pot on there on Pluto as well, and other weird stuff that was on there. It's pretty cool. Let's see, Perseus. Christ, I think you put on there. Hi, Chris. You are the best. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What's up from the high desert? Metal Ed, what's going on? Good to see you there, brother. Everybody seems to like the hat. Like I said, as soon as I got it, I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like I said, it has SpaceX in the back here and pretty cool. That's why, in order to move ahead as a society, we have to get away from the chemical fuels to easier, more efficient methods. Fossil fuels and chemicals aren't going to cut it. I agree, Mr. Wayne. No doubt about it, man. We need to get away from that crap. There's so much more. You can run on hydrogen. People say, well, you can, like electric cars and stuff. Well, you're running off a power plant. That's true. But like Elon's trying to do, you get your big power bank and you can run it off solar and then charge your car at night. So it's free electricity, but it's not, because obviously you got to pay for all the gear and all the stuff that goes with it, right? The power wall, I think they call it. So yeah, you're still, you're burning fuel one way or the other. But my thinking is this: when you plug in a car on a giant grid, now if they can use something much more efficient, it's like a flea in a buffalo's rear end. I was going to say something else, so I figured I'd watch that. But the thing is, it's like running a blow dryer on a giant power plant. It's like it's not even enough to make a difference. But you start putting a lot of these on the road, like in a lot of these other countries, and they just have to come up with a lot more fuel efficient everything, and get away from, like you said, these fossil fuels, or dino fuels as they call them. Definitely need to get away from that. Neil Spalding, he says bedtime here in the UK. Well, if you're leaving, Neil, I appreciate you stopping by, man, and we'll see you on the next one there, right? Or commenting on the videos. Christine, no, I'm not sure. I don't recall that. You said, do you remember the UFO incident in the 90s that leaked radiation on people, and after investigation, it belonged to our Air Force. They had no idea how to run their technology. I'm not sure. I don't know if I even heard about that. Bill Loika, you put on there, who controls the narrative NASA feeds us? The government? Too vague. DOD? Well, Department of Defense, CIA, the cabal, private entities. Who is the they? Well, it would have to be, I would think, the people who actually run this planet, the ultra rich, the military themselves as well. And they're above all of this. The military, I think it's the last word. I mean, they're the ones that started the Space Force that, our president's talking about now, Trump's talking about. But they had space wars back in the day, these, stuff like that. They had weapons out in space then, back in the 80s. It's nothing new. And it's almost like they're trying to remind you, okay, we're going to have this space force out in space. So now if you see anything, they have a photo out there. One day, there's a satellite with some kind of, weapons on it or something like that, which I don't ever think they'll ever show anybody, because then it's basically screwing the country, right? Because every other country is going to see it. But if it ever happened, they say, well, yeah, this is our, This is our arsenal in case anything, either something from outside comes at us, or we can protect our country if another country tries to bomb us. Right? I don't know. It's speculation, but yeah, I think it's the military that actually has the last say and is above everybody, including NASA, all the other space agencies, the president. And Josh, did Leslie, I agree. I saw a UFO, just felt awe. It was 10 years ago. Yeah, I mean, depending on how much you see of it, like some people have seen them up close. And when you see it, you're just kind of like, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? Wow, that's awesome. I've never seen one. And then you're thinking next, if it's close enough to you, is it going to do something to me? Or is it going to be, whatever? It's just a lot of things run through your mind at that time. I don't think people would be totally freaked out unless, like I said, it was something like Independence Day. That's a whole different ball game, right? Mr. Chris does all of this for us and does not ask for a single penny. I salute you. Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm all for anybody supporting the channel. It's just, or anybody's channel. It's cool, and it does help the channel out. But I'm not going to ask for it. I don't see that. Chris, hi. Maybe this is, he asked, I'm not sure how you put this. Maybe should be asked and you've answered before. But one question my friends always ask is why NASA is seemingly hiding this stuff? Why are they keeping it from the public? Love your work. Well, Andy, to be honest with you, I mean, I think it's coming down again to the military. They dictate what can be seen and what cannot be seen. And I think if they actually, and I know you guys will agree with me, if they were to show, like I said earlier, anything like organics, trees, they show the water on Mars, so on and so forth. I don't think anybody freak out by it. They'd be going, "Oh my god!" So there is actually organic life on Mars. I don't think nobody'd even like, what I mean, flinch at all. Um, but when it comes to the things I think they're really looking at, it's all technological. It's of another civilization that's long since passed. Again, they've had two huge explosions on the planet, or just above the planet in the atmosphere, and that's what I think killed the whole planet off. Now, it might be long prior to that, but there's proof of that, Xenon 129. And then there was another one that was very large in amount, that it can only be by natural, or not natural, but something that was built and something that was set off in the atmosphere in order to do that. And so a lot of people have been talking about that. They're like, it's kind of weird that it's like that. I mean, it's like, uh, so I think the reason why they're keeping it from the public is simply that. It's just, it's the military. And like I said, these guys are not randomly taking some kind of, you know, uh, just random pictures up there. Think about this. They know, like I said, the Curiosity rover itself, right? It had two motherboards on board this thing, and in a short time, the first one took a dump. They're on the last one. Now, would you be just taking random photos of just random anything, knowing that your time could be, it's any given time this thing could take a dump? No. So they're up there for a reason. They went up there with the idea of let's get this done. Let's see what these things are, and of course, it's got cameras. It's got the Molly cam. It's got the nav cams. It's got all kinds of cameras on this thing to look at different parts. Now, whether it's dirt, rocks, and other things, they're seeing all of this, and it makes sense, But I think they're up there for much more than just rock samples and sand and drilling and grinding off stones and trying to see what the makeup of it, in case it's something, what I mean? They're trying to see what kind of rock it may be. But when you see these things in these photos, it just screams intelligently made. They're taking photos of it. What's that tell you? There you go. Alpha Diamond, you put in NASA belongs to the Defense Department, so no one, pretty much. Yeah, guys, smash that like button, hammer it down. Mahi, Dr. Evil hijacked the India spacecraft, huh? He's a bad man. Yeah, you're right about that, William Johnson. Yeah, it's frustrating our explorers and scientists have to keep these things from us. Yeah, I think it's sad. I think they should actually start, like I said, go bigger steps. Let people see, like, at least the organics. We come on, we know that at least that. I mean, it's definitely more than that. Which I'm trying to remember the. See if I can find this here. I don't know if you guys have seen this one here. It was from the Collective Evolution. Now, I don't always believe a lot of these pages and stuff like that, but this one here, it's pretty cool. I'll drop the link to you guys. You guys can see this. Ex-scientist, I'm sorry, ex-NASA scientist accuses the space agency garbling images to hide things. He's not the only one. And of course, this talks about Dr. Norman Bergeron, which also had the. Let me see if he was the. Um, yeah, he's got a book out. It's called The Ring Masters of Saturn. And when you read the book, I don't have it, but I read up a little bit about it. And what it talks about is one of the outer rings was like not completed. Think about that, man. How weird does that sound? And and so he had that book saying that's again Ring Masters of Saturn, like it's being built. Now, there's no way to vet any of that because obviously you and I can't take a look at this stuff, but it's pretty wild, right? But he goes on to say, I guess because they were talking on this page. It says we published an article last month on the Project Camelot interview with Dr. Norman Bergeron regarding what's really happening in space. A mechanical engineer, Dr. Bergeron, has worked for Ames Research Laboratory and NACA. I think NACA was prior to NASA, and it was called National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, and Lockheed Missiles and Space Company, now known as Lockheed Martin. He then went on to found Bergeron Engineering and Research. Admittingly, testimony like this isn't enough to prove his claims, but when several hundred, if not thousands of people like Dr. Bergeron, people who have obviously had access to extremely extensive data, are coming forward with similarly extraordinary stories, it would be foolish to dismiss them out of hand just because it's against what we believe. Now, I'll drop the link to you guys because it also talks about, I think it's, trying to remember what the heck this was at. Yeah, there's also got a video on Donna Hare, which also worked for NASA, and she walked into a room and they were actually covering this stuff up. But what this guy here says, they did like a little chat back and forth. Now, this woman, Kerry Cassidy, have you heard that NASA alters their footage coming from the moon, etc.? He says, I know some of the things they are doing with it. Yeah. And she put on, Kerry says, okay, so even the footage is not always dependable, right? Although I guess it's dependable to begin with. It's just that they start altering it later. And he puts on there, I've been told by a very reliable source. He asked me what camera did I get the image from on the moon. I said Hasselblad. And he said, that's right. He says, I thought we darkened that enough that you wouldn't find it. So, yeah, I mean, I'll give you guys the link. It's pretty cool to read it. And if it's not too long, that'd be great. Let me see if I can get that in there. Of course not. Let me see here. Can't put it on there. 220 characters. It's only 200 you can put on there, guys. Let me see if I can find this here. You might be able to just... Anyway, it's on, let's see if we can get this way. You can actually search it out anyway. It's on www.collective-evolution.com. And you can just look it up. You can actually, there's a search bar. You can just put in the ex-NASA scientist accuses. And then, of course, it'll probably pop up anyway. Because I had this on there for a few days, so they might have changed the topic anyway. So you might want to just look at it from there. Yeah, that's what I was just reading, SC. Yeah. And like I said, this guy also, Bergeron also put on, like I said, that book he had, Ringmasters of Saturn. I'm almost positive he's got a video out there as well. But on that page, he has a video and talking about that. And he's talking about Ringmasters and, of course, of the Saturn. It's got like I don't know how long this video is. That one is an hour and 47 minutes. Interesting. I was watching that video. I probably got about 3/4 of it, and I had to turn it off, ran out the door. Really interesting stuff. You guys ought to check that video out. Let me see it. It was, what was the other one here? And I was reading up what you guys are talking about too. China says it found something bizarre and unexpected on the moon, and they said it's supposed to be some kind of glass-like substance. They don't know if it was heated beyond whatever. And of course, you get sand, you melt it enough, you get glass, right? And they were saying it's in very small, these small craters, and they found this weird colored substance, and they thought it was like some kind of just crazy stuff here. Let me see. Chinese media is claiming that while investigating the far side of the moon, the country's U-2 lunar rover stumbled upon a unique gel-like substance of unknown origin sitting inside a small crater. And then it says, what we know so far, this, that, and the other. How do we know? I mean, why aren't they showing the substance? Why not? I mean, they're showing the tracks from the rover. They're showing all kinds of stuff. Show the substance. I'll give you guys this here. If this one's not too long. MIT Technology Review. Oh, we can get away with that one. 176 characters. We can do that. Robin Phillips, great question. Why is it that when the rover takes a pic that has an interesting view, NASA steers the rover far away? Are they, though? How do we know that they didn't already check out the substance, look it over, so on and so forth? They didn't actually get a really good look at it, and it just made it look like they just totally avoided it. So you can almost bet if it's any of interest, they've been already all over it. You can almost guarantee it. You know, this thing can shoot lasers and everything else. It can shoot at a piece of metal, and basically the instruments on the turret arm, at the end of the turret arm, can basically sniff the smoke and kind of find out what the makeup of it is. Kind of same thing it'll do to a rock, right? It'll blast a rock, a couple holes in a rock, and then it determines what the sand or gravel or whatever it may be is made of. So, yeah, don't think for a minute they've avoided those things. If it looks interesting, you can bet they've checked it out big time. Studious realism. Can I ask what kind of computer you use and publish at what size? Well, it is at 1080p. I do that, and it's actually a HP. I use all HP workstations. They're a lot more durable and stuff like that. And this one here, I've got the other one's I think forget that one there. I thought it was the 230, but that's a Z210, and I've got a Z800. Pretty good computer. It's pretty decent. I think it's like 12 cores and 48 gigs of RAM or something like that. So that one there is pretty heavy duty. But I try to upgrade, but upload the biggest I can. Like I said, in 1080. I think that's what you wanted to know. So if not, just go ahead and ask a little differently, and I'll try to answer your question. Oh, Nacho, you got me beat then, huh? Nacho is actually replying to you, Studious Real, I'm in a full-blown retard socket 2011 system with 64 gigs of RAM memory and whatnot. Pretty sweet. Yeah, let me see. Roy, Shirless, hey, Chris from West Virginia. What's up, there, neighbor? Glad you're in there. Robin Phillips, yeah, the best proof photos are those overlooked by the lab techs at the time. Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, guys. They would literally just like either paint them out, put like I said, a piece of acetate, which is clear acetate, right over it, and then it would just mock out these things they wanted to take out and overlay it on top of the original. And then what they would do is they take a picture of it, either run it through the computer, scan it, and then it looked like it was all real. But they literally, you can see where they had marker or paint went right over these darn things. Clerks 93, what's going on? Did you take that from the movie Clerks? That was actually pretty funny, by the way. Brian Norton, you can bet your hiney they drove right up beside it. Anything of interest. And you're absolutely right, Brian. Again, They're not going up there for no reason. They're going up there because they know there's something of major interest and they want a close look at it. This is the reason why I want to get people there so bad. Get hands on. But if you can't get people there, what's the best thing to do? Have a robot up there, something that can do. Obviously, it can't. I mean, it can pick it up to a certain degree or roll it over with the turret arm, but it can eyeball it. It can hit it with lasers. It can sniff whatever comes off of the thing. Next best thing, I guess, compared to man. But if that's what they got, then that's what they got, right? The 2020 rover is supposed to be a little bit better. It can actually save samples. It's got different instruments, better cameras, so on and so forth. So we'll see what happens in 2020, how good those photos will be, right? How much you want to bet they're not going to be much better? Metalhead, you put on there, does anyone believe that the moon and the Mars is inhabited? No proof, but I can almost guarantee yes. There's some kind of it's inhabited one way or another. Because it's kind of like this planet here. If it got hit with a catastrophe, whatever it might have been, or something self-inflicted by us, people will survive one way or the other. They either go underground or they'll hide out somehow, and then when everything blows over, depending on what it is, right? It'll never kill off the whole race unless, of course, it annihilates the whole planet. Well, then that's a different ball game. But yeah. Matthews Wise, you should apply anti-reflection coating into your glasses. Yeah, sorry about that. Not a whole lot I can do about that. Bright screen. Christy, but anyway, Metalhead, yes. Yes, sir. Probably everybody in here. Don't worry about it, misheard. What I would suggest, if you can, get on something, either a friend's computer or something that like that, and this way you can actually maybe get off the stuff that's actually been hacked or whatever else, and get onto something else, and then maybe you can do more communications easier without it, being disrupted and stuff like that. I know you had a hell of a time over there, so yeah, that would be the best way to do it, I think. Especially if your stuff is in, we'll use the term infected, right? So, um, Frack's in there. What's going on there, Frack? You guys all jumping in there. ABS 0303. You're all in there. Good to see you guys in there. Studious realism. Mercury inhabited too. See, I've always seen weird things on these planets and moons, right? But you never really see people. Now, some people actually do on some of these Martian photos, right? But to me, it's like, I don't see enough of it to say yes or no. So I'm kind of on the fence about that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean it's not there, right? So yeah, I mean, I think I think there's life on these planets, but at least we're seeing kind of structural anyway, right? So, is it still inhabited? Good possibility. I think so. I don't think, like I said, I don't think a planet has been, at least if it's been inhabited, like many millions of people, is ever going to be completely killed off, unless, of course, it's like Mars, where it completely starves off every bit of oxygen, which Mars isn't. But if it was to take every bit of air and pretty much kill the planet to where it's on fire, I don't think it's going to completely kill everybody off, right? Ash Richards, you put on the. I suspect they have rovers at Sidonia and other interesting places than this place where opportunity is rolling around. That just won't want us to know. Well, the thing is, if you look at Curiosity rover, it was actually it was the Opportunity rover was south of Sidonia, and the other one, the Curiosity, is below, and I forget the other name of that area. And this is, and again, coincidentally, that there's the large explosion, nuclear explosion that was seen in 1941 was over the area of Sidonia, and the one that was over east, it was just southeast of Sidonia. There was a smaller explosion, but still pretty large. Well, funny enough, both of the rovers are just south of those areas. Imagine that. Hmm. Look it up. Look at where the rovers are actually at, and uh, when you see them, and like I said, they're south of those areas because they'll have a map. It'll show where all the rovers are, right? And either landed rovers or whatever it may be. You'll see it on there, and you can see it just south of those areas. Pretty wild. 12-foot wall. Thank you, sir, for your donation and your support. Do you think people like Elon Musk know the truth? Absolutely. Why? He's now a bedfellow with NASA. And if this guy's going to contribute X amount of money as well as his own spacecraft, you can bet he knows. You can almost bet. And this may be the reason, and I can't swear to it, but that's probably one of the reasons why he wants to go there before he dies. Think about that a minute. He gets up there, he'll be like, oh my God, I get to see the stuff for myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I think if it's like yourself, if you're a multi-millionaire, right, or billionaire, it doesn't really matter, and you could get together with a space, agency and say, hey, do me a favor. Even some of these places that put out just satellites, right? You can put out CubeSats, all kinds of satellites, and say, listen, I'm going to give you guys X amount of dollars. What would it take to send a lander, small, doesn't have to be very large, send it to Mars? What would it cost me? I don't want anybody to know about it. Okay, build it, send it. Okay, sends back pictures. You get to see it for yourself. That doesn't seem like it's too far in the realm of what could be possibility, right? Matthias Wise. The space race is weird. Everybody wants to leave this planet. What's your explanation, Chris? I don't know if they want to leave the planet. I know they want to have another civilization, at least part of our civilization on Mars. And it makes sense to a certain degree because they don't want anything that's going to devastate the planet and basically kill off the human race to where we don't exist anymore. So by having people on both planets, there's a good chance we'll survive, right, as a race. I think it's the other way around. I think we started up from Mars, we ended up on Earth. Now we're trying to go back to it to find out what happened, or like a reconnaissance mission kind of thing, and then maybe get our home back. So you know what I mean, to start over again. And I don't think if the humans go, if we go, I don't think, and this is just off the top of my head, guys. I don't think they're just going to go there and say, well, let's pick up these rocks that the rovers checked out, and we're just going to look it over, and we're going to put our little buildings there. I think they're going to go and live in the buildings that are still not completely destroyed. Let's say hypothetically, this civilization had nuclear power, but it was a lot more advanced than what we have today. In other words, they can go there right now, and let's say the planet was the inhabitants were killed off millions of years ago, and not recently, within X amount of 100 years or whatever. Then everything would still be functional, well, at least some of it. Now, if they went there and the structures that weren't completely destroyed, just move into those. Why would you need to bring your own? It's like a turnkey civilization kind of thing going. They just go there and live in these places. And of course, you'd have to have your own food and stuff like that. Have to make your own food, which makes sense. So, yeah. Richard, I bet the guys who edited the moon and Mars photos in the 60s and 70s ever thought everyone and his dog would have a kit we have today. And well, again, I don't think, I know a lot of people like, when I do like the Mars photos and bring out the stuff, the ones that are washed out and bring out big time, where you can see like it looks like freaking spacecraft on. I did the one that had it in the crater wall and stuff. I think to me, if I don't think they anticipated that. They washed it out thinking, we'll give these to the public. The public looking, I'm really not seeing a whole lot. Well, you know why? Because the lunar surface is shiny. That's not the reason why these photos are whited out like that. They're washed out for a reason. And again, they might put this light white haze on this acetate and drop it on the original. So in other words, the details are under this haze, and you can bring out the details. That's how you can actually bring out these details. Because if it wasn't there and they simply painted over it, you wouldn't be able to bring out the details. There's no way. There's no way you could do that. Let's see. Then you put on the. I also don't know if I believe there are people are there, but I don't know they once were, and they could be there. But if they are, I don't believe there are millions that would be very hard to hide. Well, I mean, yeah, I agree, and I don't think it would be the case either. I think you'd have groups and groups of people, like would be here on Earth, right? You'd have like groups of people from different countries that hid out, they were hiding out, they're underground, and these bunkers and stuff like that they have, and everything's underground, and it's kind of like the underground tunnels we have here. They go from everywhere from California to the northeast corner. There's like a network of these things. Just look up. I'm trying to remember what that name of it was. You guys see those where it had like truckers going into these mountains, and the guy says, "So where you going?" He says, "I don't know. I'll be driving all night." The guy's going into this tunnel, and he's bringing supplies. And people say, "Well, it's not a conspiracy. They're nothing more than just facilities to just store stuff." Okay, but why does the guy need to drive underground all night long? Where's he going? Yeah, metalhead. Yep, plenty of proof now. Oh yeah, and like I said, when you put it together, there's a lot of people doing this. Whether you look at Richard Hoagland stuff, um, and, I'm trying to figure. There's another guy too. I want. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. But you got Mr. Bergeron. You got like all of these people bringing this stuff out. There's people like myself. Oh, there's a lot of other people doing it as well. When you stop putting these, like I said, these little puzzle pieces together, you start going, "Come on!" And obviously there was life on this planet. There's just no way around it. The moon as well. And like I said, the only reason why these guys went totally crazy is that I think, like I said, I think they seen something on the moon they couldn't explain. So, well, it's not ours. I think a lot of these space agencies got together and they said, guess what? Let's get together again above everything else. And, the military kicked in and said, okay, you guys can do this. Let's all do this. In collaboration, they got together. They all went up there and found stuff that doesn't belong to us and said, my God, if this stuff is here, what about the rest of our solar system and beyond? There you go. All right, Alf. Appreciate you coming here. You said it's midnight in Germany. Good night, everyone. Well, good night to you and have a good week there, right? Good night, Alf. Josh DeLester put in there. Good night, Alf. Here in Holland, too. Oh, yeah, I know it's late for you guys. No doubt about it. We were the Martians and Earthlings. Yeah, I think they actually had like I said, a dual civilization. We were on both, and at one point in time, we were on both planets. And something like I said happened, and we just came back here, and we are who we are today. Most people say, well, that doesn't make any sense because if you look at evolution, blah 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 blah. Yeah, well, we're going by what the scientists are telling us. How do we know this is all true? How do we know? Because clearly there's other things on this moon they're not telling us about, and there's things on other planets they're not telling us about. So can we trust them? I'm not saying everything about science is fake because that's not true. There's a lot of interesting stuff, and I like to follow science myself. But but what about the things we're not being told and it's being purposely suppressed? Well then you got to start asking questions. Oh, you seen that, Roy? He said, I saw that, Chris. He went 500 miles on the ground. Yeah, these guys are traveling miles upon miles. Where the hell are these people going? So clearly there's a network. So let's say, and we hope it doesn't happen, but let's say there's a couple of bombs get dropped on the United States. They can live underground. They probably have all kinds of facilities under. It's like a city underground, branching off everywhere, going everywhere. Who knows? How do we know? And they're bringing supplies just in case anything ever happens. They're rotating the supplies. Plus, they're traveling. Why not just travel on the normal highways? What's wrong with that? Well, exactly, studious realism. You said, how can NASA think it's okay to use that kind of money just to look? Well, that's the thing. They're not just looking. I mean, they're doing experiments, don't get me wrong, and they're legit. Now, but that's for the PR. That's for the people that, the regular public and stuff like that. But again, these rovers were put on there. At least the curiosity was right. Um, they said that the cameras can take high definition video as well as photos. You hardly ever see any high definition photos, at least not when we see them. They might be like that originally. And then once they're doctored up, they got, they put in real crappy resolution, cover up whatever they need to cover up in these photos. It's evident. We've seen it more than once. And, and I've never seen a high definition video. Has anybody else? Never seen it. 2020 is going to be the same way, except this time it's going to have microphones on it for descent as well as on the ground. That should be interesting. Exactly, Paul. Yeah, evolution is a theory. Phil Cox and daughters, Jessica and Kelsey Brown. Who do you think will lay claim to Mars when we get there? Well, I think the United States is already going to lay claim because they've already been there first, right? So I think that would be the situation, unless, of course, they're like again they're kind of working together to say like this a united space agency kind of thing, where they all stake a claim. So in other words, it'll be just like another Earth, years upon years upon years later. They'll have everybody from all different countries going there, and then also building a civilization, and like we have here on Earth, right? It'll be just like another Earth eventually. Or again, there's a lot more going on Mars, meaning there's a lot more life on there than we're being told, whether it be just organics, maybe even some small creatures, who knows? Again, speculation, but that's not the point. If they have a water cycle, they've got air, and they say it's closest to the ground. You got a lot more oxygen, as well as a water cycle, and so on and so forth in Gale Crater, because it's like a bowl, right? And so if everything's inside there, all this is going on inside there, it's got like basically its own ecosystem going on. Not unheard of. We have it here on Earth, and we have its own micro ecosystems. There's some things that are in caves that sun shines in. We get a different ecosystem, but it's got its own. It's not uncommon. I don't know, studious realism. Yeah. Do they think we are ignorant? Well, they're hoping we'll stay that way. Don't ask questions. Don't ask a thing. Just, go to your job. That's it. Sit down, watch your little, these little shows at night, and don't ask any questions. Paul McKenzie put on a week. We would have to live underground initially due to the radiation and lack of magnetic field to protect humans from the radiation and the sun's harmful rays. Well, keep in mind, Paul, we also there is sporadic, magnetic fields on Mars. There is, if you look it up, they actually have different areas that have, there's one really big area that has a good part of that magnetic field. And that's where they'd probably land and probably make a civilization because they'd be protected there, right? And is spurious. They're all over the planet. It's not like us, like we have it like really protecting us, but those particular areas you could live in. At least I think so, because think about it, you'd have the same thing you got here on Earth. It's literally protected from the harmful rays, radiation and stuff. Tamesa Nassandras, hi. Hello, what's happening? Yeah, you might be right on there, Martin Lucas. Yeah. I'm sure America and China will have a race to inhabit Mars. Well, India's already there. They got their own mom spacecraft there orbiting Mars. So, everybody's, like I said, everybody's jumping on that bandwagon trying to go to Mars. For what? It's a dead planet. It's just dusty and crappy. What's the point? Why bother? Even if you said, well, I want to see if there was any life on the planet. Okay. They've already discovered that back in 1975 and 1976 with the Viking landers. Of course, they were, again, I said this before, and there was debate upon scientists. Yeah, well, we have this, you can see this building blocks of life, so on and so forth. And the others say there wasn't. I believe there was. When they first did that first dig, you can see there was ice underneath, just underneath the layer of dirt. And of course, it melted because they left it exposed. It melted, so it melts in the water, right? So, yeah. I stand by my first comment. It's just religion stopping the truth coming out. I read somewhere that the Pope is in the first five people to be informed if there's something someone if found. Well, that's true. I mean, again, like if you look at the Vatican and stuff like that, they say like there's so many books that are actually in there in the basement of there and stuff like that, and there's a lot more that was taken from the Bible and information and stuff like that. So they had totally taken that out, and so now you just get what you got today. Um, and yeah, I think they just feel that everybody's just gonna really lose it. Yeah, I don't understand why. Um, I think if they keep doing it more and more increments and just desensitizing the people, nobody's going to care. They'll be like, "Oh, well, that's interesting. I want to know more." They're not going to be freaked out by it. The Giant Canyon is the impact site. Natural Spirit. You talk. Which one are you talking about? Natural Spirit. You said the Giant Canyon is the impact site. David Webster. I think it will eventually be everybody's Star Trek. Basically, 11-day be effect not only from different countries, possibly even from different planets. Well, it's going to get to the point we will accelerate big time as far as technology, so on and so forth. Different drives, different engines and stuff like that. It'll be like you'll get there within a month tops. And they've even saying back in the day, and I forget who exactly said this, but they said you can get there in 20 days. You know what I mean? From the one of the propulsion drives that we have. I don't believe it was ion. I don't know if it was a plasma. It might have been plasma, but people are like, look more towards ion drives. It seems to be because they've already used them, right? And but they're on a lot smaller scale. But if you really think about it, what do you need? If you use a very small engine on a craft, well, you need regular propulsion to get off the ground. Once you're out of the atmosphere or the gravity field of Earth, use the ion drive. Of course, it'll take you probably forever to get there, but if it's a lot more efficient and built well, and I think it'll be fine. Yeah, Kenneth, he has. The real Jimmy Roberts says NASA has been taking pictures of Mars in stereo. Now, would you allow? And it said would allow you to see it. It does. It does because what it does, it has your right and left camera, right? And what they'll do is, and if you ever look at this, it says right and left camera, nav cams or mass cam, and because one of them I think is a 35 mil and the other one's a 100 mil, bigger camera, but and one's got better quality. But what they'll do is it takes stereoscopic, pictures, and you can just go back and forth with them. You'll see it like shift. You'll see the pictures and the ground actually shift back and forth. But what they do is they take one, and what they do is they put it in like a 3D so you can see it in like more in depth. And they've been doing that for years. Oh, okay, Valles Marineris. All right, I got you. Now, when you say impact, though, because this is what they're doing. Listen, the uh, it's basically it got its name from the Mariner spacecraft. So Valles Marineris, that is, and that whole area. I was just reading up on this again. That whole area has actually got water in it. They were talking about how it's got water in that giant. It's like a giant Grand Canyon, right? Valles Marineris, I believe they said it's like the length or the width of the United States. So, roughly. And you could basically stick it end to end. And, but I was reading more on it. It's like it's got actually water on it. And check that out. It's pretty neat. I hate it when this thing jumps up like this. Oh, okay, Natural Spirit. You said I am a UFO researcher since the 70s. Well, you got a channel out there you can check out, or just something you're just researching on your own? Studio Surrealism, you said I hope to work in some string theory, M theory into my channel. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Pretty neat stuff. Oh, okay. Natural Spirit. You said you talked to me a few times on Facebook. Okay. Did you go under a different name though, or the same one? Because it sounds familiar, but I'm just not sure. Some people actually, when they get to the Facebook, they say, "Oh, by the way, this is me on Facebook. This is but this is my real." Oh, okay, gotcha. Chris Davis. Hey, Chris. It's Chris. I appreciate your work you're doing. Did you hear about the first hotel going into orbit on Mars next couple of years or something? No, I've never heard of that. Where did you hear that from? Yeah, I don't foresee that ever happening. I mean, I know they want to, simple steps they're taking, like, some of these private space agencies and so on and so forth. They want to have like small rides out into the atmosphere and then back down, things like that. But as far as like stuff like that, that's a long way away. I don't ever foresee that happening, at least in a few lifetimes. Because it just, yeah. Be curious where you heard that from. Yeah, I noticed that kind of. You put on there, I got to stop hitting the send button before I finish typing. Yeah, that happens. I've done that before. Yeah, Phil Cox, he's telling you, Kenneth, yeah, on the JPL site, you can view 3D images. You need the old style 3D glasses to see them, which is true. I mean, you can use the newer ones too, because they have them kind of fancied out ones for watching DVDs and stuff like that, but basically the same thing, right? Got your blue and your red, different film on there. Martian Sunset, something ripped that gorge. Well, they're all talking about the Thunderbolts project. They think it was a giant lightning hit or whatever. Well, that didn't happen here on Earth. On our Grand Canyon, it was just worn away through water, but it could have already been like a space in the land. Of course, the water would have eroded over years and years. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, people always said that. Hey, you've ever watched the Thunderbolts project? I have, but just because I can simulate it doesn't mean it actually that's what happened. It's a good theory, and it may very well be, but they're saying that there's another planet close to Mars, and it had this electrical storm between the two of them, and it basically ripped the atmosphere apart. I don't think that's the case at all. That's just my theory or just my thoughts. I'm not saying it's not true, right? Yeah, don't expect hardcore disclosure. That ain't gonna happen. Oh, okay, natural spirit. I got you. Yep. Photography, light, and magic. Yep, it's called parallax. Yes, sir. Matthews Wise, how did you become a YouTuber? What has been your the inspiration? Well, truthfully, I was checking these photos out long before I even went on there, like most of the moon stuff like that. Started doing the Mars, looking into a lot of Mars photos, and like I said, my buddy Will, I give him credit for that. And trying to think of his last name, his first name rather. Anyway, Will from What's Up in the Sky 37, he was doing a video. I was watching him, and I'm saying, man, I said, well, that's pretty interesting stuff he's showing. He shows some awesome stuff, right? And I'm looking at him going, but what about that? Why is there an outline of something sitting right there? See, again, I've seen these lines way back in the day, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, that makes no sense to me. Something's there. I don't know what it is, but there's a shape of something there. And so that's how I started. And then I just started getting into. I said, I like to do these and show these people my findings. I think it'd be pretty interesting to do that. So that's how I started doing it. That's how I got more and more into it. Ah, no, this thing jumped. Hold on. Shanka Nayudu. Hi, Chris. How are you? I'm doing fine. How are you doing? Oh, okay. Yeah, less sweet. Earth's Grand Canyon has an anomaly. Can't recall the name they've given it, but it's about 10,000 years of history is missing from the sediment. Yeah, I know. And there was what was it too? There was something about, um, There was I don't know if there was structures there from way back in the day, like ancient structures there too, and they have a lot of that stuff blocked off, don't they? A lot of the Grand Canyon. I read that a long time ago that they were blocking off certain areas that they didn't want you to actually go in there and look at and take pictures of and something else, which I found really wild. I mean, if it's supposed to be nature, right? Kind of weird. Right. Richard, you also said the same. There was a hushed up report of Egyptian structures found in the Grand Canyon. It was something like that, or there was something similar to that. I know that. Really weird. ABS 0303. Hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on the monolith on Phobos, rather? Yeah, I mean, it's there. I mean, even Buzz said, who put it there? He said, wait until they see that, monolith on the moon, that little moon. Like, what do you say, the potato shaped moon, which is really interesting. I've seen it myself, and I don't mean literally went over there and seen it, but on the pictures, you can see this thing, and it's got a friggin' shadow that's long. So, and if you look at the other stuff next to it, not quite as long. So this thing has to be pretty darn tall to cast that kind of shadow, right? Yeah, pretty cool. 149 watching, 94 thumbs up. Guys, slam it. Boosh. Chris Davis, you put Mars Luxury Space Hotel in 2021. Google it. Oh, some billionaire wants to try it and do it. Good luck with that. I don't foresee that happening. I mean, you know how much has to be worked out to do that? That'd be crazy. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, don't get me wrong. If they can have a space station, why can't they have? Think about it. Why can't they have some kind of building or structure out there, right? Of course, they'd have to be able to keep it on or in orbit, but they could do it. I'm sure it can be done. Now, why he wants to jump the gun like that? Unless they want to make it like almost like an ISS, right there orbiting Mars. That would be something. So in other words, they go there, they travel there, they stay there, and they could take off from that station and go down to Mars and come back up and stuff like that, refuel and then head back or whatever. I guess they could do that. I don't know about like the full blown hotel or something like that or whatever, but yeah. Brian Norton, you put in there, Chris, maybe Mars blew itself up by accident with advanced nuclear energy. That's a possibility. I mean, we had runaway nuclear stations here on Earth, right? Or, catastrophic things happen to these nuclear, Chernobyl, things like that. What was the one in Japan as well? Had that tidal wave or that earthquake and all this other stuff happen. You get all of these. That's a possibility but that would have to be huge to devastate a whole planet, right? Um, but when they say they had two explosions, that makes you wonder, and they're trying to remember how many miles. It's quite a bit apart from each other, but not as much as you would think. It's not like it's on one side of the planet, one's on the other. These things are within X amount of miles away. And again, this is where the rovers are. They're just south of these two areas. How coincidental is that? And of these exploded areas. And like I said, they didn't hit the ground. They were like midair nuclear explosions. One was very large, like I said, and one was very small. Well, not very small, but smaller than the larger one. And it's just funny enough how these guys just happen to put these rovers just south of these two areas. What the hell for? Maybe in the blasted area, there was too much devastation. They couldn't pull anything out of it. But maybe by pulling back, from ground zero, they can see a lot more things that are intact. Who knows, right? I don't know. Darren Rivard. Hi, Chris. Love your channel. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that. Yeah, Shankar. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. You said, have you heard about India's mission named Chandrayaan 2? It's got mysteriously failed when it is about to land. Its move south pole is tricky. Well, with a question mark. The place said they choose expected to have some water. Well, Yeah, I thought that too. I mean, we were talking about that earlier, and it was only like I said, it was like 2.1 kilometers from the actual surface, which is not very far, and it was coming in fine. It was doing good, but it was off track. They literally can show the red track, and then it showed it was short of it. So I found that pretty interesting. So is it possible it got real short of its where it's supposed to land, and it landed on some kind of mountain or something like that, and just tumbled over? Who the hell knows, right? Um, like I said, I'm a little bit dubious about stuff like that. I don't something tells me, I mean, it just soft landed perfectly and it's just, doing its thing. And how do we know? Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, Martin Lucas, stupid keypad on my phone. But as I was saying, I thought they found a pharaoh statue on Mars. Oh man, trying to remember what crater that was, but it was on the crater wall. This was years ago. I remember seeing that and actually looking that over myself. That whole area. It was actually in between rocks. I know which one you're talking about, and it really does actually have this likeness of what we see here in Egypt with the giant statues. It does look a lot like that. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the crater though. I'm trying to remember the name of the crater. Oh, okay, misheard. Yeah, you put on there they have Chris certain Grand Canyon areas off limits, and they are, and it makes you wonder. Now, I understand the possibility of somebody killing themselves, falling in or whatever. I get that part, but a lot of it's just it's a giant park, right? You can go out there and you can look it over with the eyeglasses, and everything else, and pretty interesting. But then they go, wait a minute, this part here is off limits, certain parts and good size areas, and you can see what there's like caves type thing going in there. So it makes you wonder, what the hell's going on there, right? The universe is teeming with life. I totally agree, natural spirit. Mr. Wayne, all right, I guess you're taking off. You have yourself a good one there, right? Hey, have a good night. Catch you on the flip flop. All right, man. Have yourself a good night and a good week. Sir, I slammed. Broke the like button, I think. Now, don't be breaking the computer now. You won't be able to get on it at all. But yeah, smash them buttons. Thumbs up. William Johnson, you put on it. Do you think there's ET? There's ET or ancestral wreckage from other cycles of our past being discovered in orbit via the space station. I wonder if they can travel from station to explore these things. I would imagine they could. I don't see why they couldn't. Think about it. When they built the ISS, right? They built it with the space shuttles, okay, and they just went out there routinely. It was not even a big deal. Now I think they just a couple of these things. It's sad. A couple of these things are in Kakistan and they're just rotting away in these big hangars. Rather, I was gonna say bunkers, but hangars, literally falling apart, which sucks. But yeah, I think there's stuff out in space. This is the reason why we don't get to see it. A lot of people go, "Well, how come we never get a real picture of space?" You will if they're way back. You ever notice that? But if they come up real close, like you can watch the ISS in real time, real cameras, and watch it. But again, if they bring up the exposure on there and let in more light into the camera, guess what happens? The Earth is nice and bright, and you don't see anything that's dimmer than the Earth. Kind of the same way we get there on the moon, right? Real bright surface. And if you're looking at the surface, you won't see anything that's got to do with any stars. You're just not going to see it. It's kind of like looking up in the daytime and trying to look for stars over here in the sky. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You know. But it's pretty funky. Jack package you put on there. Do you think we have bases on the moon? Do you think humans have already been to Mars? Some people claim that they have. They have jump rooms. They've been over to Mars. There's so many people have said there was a couple soldiers and one, I forget what his name was, but I'm sure you guys will fill that in. Claim he was there for X amount of years. And they claim that they've been on the planet. Now, there's no way to vet this. I mean, it's just going by what people are saying, right? Pretty interesting stories, I have to admit. And I don't know. I can't vet it. I can't say yes or no. But you can almost bet as far as the moon, I don't think they've stopped. I think they knew they could go to the moon with no problem during the Apollo missions and said, let's just improve, do better. And again, they can take, like I said, take the SR-71, modify it, so the engines can work out in space. And if you really think about it, you really don't need to. You come up, 'em, 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 get out of the atmosphere. As soon as you get away from a lot of the gravitational pull, shut off the engine and glide all the way there. Okay. The where the cockpit is, they can make that airtight. For the we'll call them astronauts because they are going to the moon, right? But these people, the pilots, or they can have their own spacesuits on. All the atmospheric they need is right there in the suits. They go down to the moon. They can land normal, take off. Hardly any. What is it? I forget what it was. It was like 6% or whatever it was um, of Earth's gravity. What's there to stop it from getting off and taking off back off the moon, coming back, landing in just like the space shuttles did back in the day? Come in to do the same thing and take off every time. Come back. Who's to say that they've stopped? How do we know? I don't think they have. If again, we're always pushing the limits, pushing the envelope. I think that they've done it. They knew they can do it, and they said, "Let's keep doing it." How do we know we don't have a base on there? I mean, I can't say we have because I can't prove that. It's pure speculation, but that's not the point. Why stop where we stopped? This is the reason why people say, "Oh, why did they stop the Apollo mission?" Did they? Maybe not publicly, but you could bet they're still going back and forth there to check out these other things on the moon. And again, the rock crap there with the soil and bringing the rocks back was probably legit, but it's more of a PR move than anything, right? At least that's just my thoughts. Michael Stocky put in there, Chris, can you do a video analyzing Apollo 16 pic of Mare Crisium, AS16 121 19438? It's full of anomalies. Pipe canyon on the wall, lake crater, huge sat dish on the left side, plus more objects all over it. Seemed to me I've seen that before. I've already looked at it, but I'm going to check it out again. Because I've done several videos on the moon. You can go way back too. Christine Sable, you put on the universe is teeming with life. I totally agree. I think there's more going on than we've ever been told. And let's just say, for argument's sake, there isn't any more life in the solar system other than us. That doesn't mean there wasn't. This could have been like an old stomping grounds for some other, I'm going to use the term humans, but other, you know, people. We can call them aliens, make it sound like these little gray guys, right? Other inhabitants. They might have been here a long time ago and moved on. Who the hell knows? If they have the ability to go within the solar system pretty decent, pretty good speed, then who's to say they can't just go out exo solar system? How do we know? Jack Package, I love the Mars photo that looks like a person is working on the rover. Unfortunately, that was bogus, Jack, because that is part. When you break it down, you look at that photo really carefully. It's actually hit the mic here. It's actually the turret arm. It's actually folded up, and the way it's designed, you can see the turret head. It actually made it look like the person with some kind of gear on his back and stuff like that. That was actually, a lot of people made a big deal out of it, but it was kind of debunked. It was not really a person working on the rover, although it kind of did look like that. It looked like it had hair on it and everything else and stuff like that. But yeah. Matthias Wise, thank you for the invitation, Chris. I'm a man of constant sorrow and a Deborah Dan man. Hope you'll change your hangout time because we Europeans usually sleep at night. Oh, I hear that. Well, that's why I actually moved it, Matthias. We went from 7 o'clock to 5 p.m. Eastern time to try to accommodate some of you guys. And who knows? We'll have to see what happens. What time is it over there in the UK for most of you guys? I know some of you guys are around the world because some of you guys are in New Zealand, Australia, things like that, which is the next day anyway. So it'd be a little tough for me to do that. But, we'll have to see what happens here. Right, Paul. Yeah, you're right. Prolonged weightless space travel would have to have artificial gravity because of the weightlessness environment, like prolonged space travel, the muscles atrophy, right? And there's bone loss. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is the reason why they exercise like on the ISS. You'll see them either on treadmills or bicycles, or they're doing some kind of exercise to keep the muscles strong. As far as the bone loss, I don't know if they can. I know they can take like calcium shots and stuff like that. I don't know if that would help them if they administered that before they went on these trips. I don't know, but weird nonetheless, right? Andy Summers, what if the universe is a sphere of many, an alien's pet science laboratory? And if so, who created the aliens? There are questions we'll never ever know about the edge of the sphere. Jar is far. Well, again, I don't think there is any end, which really is weird, man. It's kind of like his. If you just stop and think and close your eyes and just say, okay, again, we're so as humans, we're used to limitations. In other words, if you get up and walk in your house and you walk a straight line, you're bound to walk into something one way or the other, right? And if you go outside, same thing's going to apply. You're going to run into something. But when you're out in space, if you can avoid every planet or any kind of body out in there, it just keeps going. Space itself, it just keeps going. There is no end. They're saying, well, we're trying to look at the very edge of the universe. How the hell do you know there's an edge? I mean, how do they know this? That's what I find interesting. It's like you don't know there may just not be an end, which really makes your brain explode in a sense because you're thinking there's got to be an end to it. If there's a beginning, there's got to be an end. Well, that's not entirely true. We just don't know. We can't fathom that because we think of limitations. We have limitations. So, yeah. Oh, so it's where did it go? It just jumped up. Hate it when this does this. I just moved it a little bit. Thing took off. Trying to get to everybody's, but so if I don't get to your question, just re-ask it again. I'll be more than happy to try to get to it. I don't want to miss anybody if I don't have to. Ian Walton, or Ian Walton rather, 9 a.m. in Australia. I figured that. Next day, 11:55 p.m. Yeah, it's pretty much the okay. Here in the Netherlands, it is 1 a.m. Oh, just about the same thing. 1 a.m. Almost in Switzerland there. I think even Phil said it was like 12:55 where he's at. I think. Um, almost 1 in Germany as well. Natural Spirit. All right. I'll have to check that out. Where did you put it? Did you put it on the regular YouTube? He said, "Did you get my message about the pic from Indian Space Center?" I don't know if you put it on Facebook or right here on YouTube. Okay, I'll check it out. Yeah, I just, like I said, when you really stop and think about the stuff we're seeing on the moon, stuff that's, we're starting to see. Again, I take it in from every direction, right? You go, okay, we're seeing release videos of UFOs. We're seeing things in these photos. We're seeing other people doing these, breaking down these photos, like Jimmy Roberts one, breaking down these photos and stuff like that, bringing out different things. Other people doing this as well. Richard Hoagland, all these kind of people. You put all these little tiny pieces together, man. It's like how can anybody say, oh yeah, we're that's it. We're just be all of end all of humanity, and there's not another shred of life out there. And again, I've said this before. They had like the Hubble telescope looking at one little area, and there was like hundreds and hundreds of solar systems in galaxies in this one area. And they said that's about equivalent to 1 grain of salt on a beach, or sand rather. Either way, it's still small, right? But they said that was equivalent to that 1 grain of salt on the beach. And there was like hundreds of these things in one picture. But were the only living things out there? Oh, come on. Forget about all these pictures you see here, the ones I'm doing or anybody else is doing. Forget about all that. Just that alone should make you go, come on. We're all carbon-based life forms here, people. And it's throughout the galaxy. So, you know what I mean? Just looking up at the sky, man. Just look at the sky at night. It's wild. And to think that that's it? I don't think so. All right, Paul. Yeah, do that. You said you saw a video of the hazards and problems of prolonged space travel, specifically the time to get to Mars and back. I will try to find it and send it to you. Yeah, do that. Because I've seen a guy saying, is it feasible or should we go to Mars and stuff like that? And to me, it's like, yeah, absolutely, we should go. We should be cautious. We should watch what we're doing. And like I said, I think they can prep these astronauts when they go. I think they can. I think they can prep them for, like I said, if there's something they got to take while they're in space, maybe um, if they go to sleep, some kind of, um, if they go to sleep while they're on the trip and they wake up and they give themselves shots of um, calcium or whatever it takes, whatever they got to do, I'm sure they can do that. And just get them prepped for when they do go so they don't have too much loss. And if they have to stay awake, of course, they'll go to sleep at night or whatever on the clock. And then, exercise, do whatever they're going to do so you don't get that atrophy going on and stuff like that. Yeah, I absolutely think they can. Of course, it's hard to tell. They never actually went that far, but they have been out in the ISS for X amount of time, but that's still within, Earth atmosphere and stuff like that. And the gravitational pull. But once you're way out there, there's nothing out there, compared to what's in our own atmosphere, right? So I don't know. It's something to think about, though. Martian Sunset. That's a good one. Yeah. I wonder about crop circles. They started showing up around the time CGI and Photoshop came popular, and I think you're right about that. I think a lot of that is hoaxed. I'm not saying all of it is, because I think I mentioned this last time. We were talking about how remember I showed them two guys that had like that piece of like they had like this rope and they had these like this board and they would step on it and just kind of go around in a circle, and that's how they made it. Well, the funny thing about it is though, they said, okay, what about these other intricate ones? How'd they do that? And supposedly these things are there. And I'm talking about intricate looking things where it showed like that alien and they decrypted the message that was there and so on and so forth. And now I've never been to these, so I can't say that they're actual real, but I can't say that they're not either. A lot of people have said, yeah, we've seen it. We've been there. I haven't. I couldn't tell you. Yeah, pretty much, Jack. Yeah. Do you think NASA just believes we'll ignore photos that have been blatant manipulation? Well, think of it this way. Like I said, show any of your friends, family, whatever. Don't clue them in about, hey, what do you think about this photo? Just tell them. They'll say, what's that photo from? Oh, it's from the Curiosity rover. First of all, they'll scratch head. What the hell is that? If they're not familiar with it, they'll be like, okay, you lost me. Okay. But if you were to show them it and say, well, what do you think of these? And they're going to like, oh, that's cool. Rocks. Oh, it's from Mars. That's cool. They won't ask another question. Why? Because they're not into the stuff we're looking into. A lot of you guys are researching this stuff, going into the photos yourselves, like I'm doing. A lot of many people are still doing the same thing I'm doing and pulling these photos apart. You will question it because that's inquisitive minds want to know, right? But the average person, oh yeah, that's cool. That's a nice picture of Mars. That's pretty neat that they're taking pictures of another planet, and that's where it stops. No, don't want to inquire about any more about it or nothing like that. Now, if you're like me and it just felt like it's been in your bones, man, for since you've been young and stuff like that, and want to see the moon and everything else like that, then it's kind of like in your blood kind of thing, right? Exactly, Andy. Yeah. Well, that's what it says. Crop circles, man-made a prank. That's what Andy says, and that's what they did. Now, was it to throw everybody off? Meaning they were real, but they said, "Oh, wait a minute, people are going to start questioning these things." Yeah, why don't we make this up? We'll go ahead and make these round circles in the ground. But then they became a lot more intricate. Some people said, and I'm trying to remember how they said it. It was like maybe it was done from space, like through like a not a laser, but some kind of weird that would make this field or something like that would make like impressions into these crops and stuff like that. I don't know how they would do that. To be honest with you, it's too intricate to be able to do that. But then it makes you wonder, how did they get put there, right? Yes, Ronnie. Yeah, you put on there. They blur out so much. There's a lot of crap that has literally been taken out of there and out of these photos. And I've showed you guys plenty of stuff, a blatant blur right over these things. You can see where they've actually just click, 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 and these squares over these whole areas. How the hell are they? What's the? I know why they do it. We all know why they do it, but it's just weird and it's just so blatant. But they go, you know what? We'd rather see them see these squares than to see what's behind them. Think about it. Oh, you know, it could be anything. And here's the thing: a lot of times we see these what look like ruins and stuff like that. Some of these things could be nothing more than, you know, let's say other blur spots, just bushes, because it would still confirm there's life there. Which I still don't understand why they would hide that. Doesn't make any sense to me. It just, you know, I wish I had like an inside thing, you know, where people could say, hey, you know, I got some news for you, man. Check this out. You know, um, that would be cool. That'd be interesting. So many volunteers to go on one way trip to Mars, even though they knew it was a death sentence. Yeah, there was. I forget what it was. I mean, they had like a pool of people. It was like, what was it, like 2,000 people that said, yeah, well, I'll go, and then they narrowed it down to like eight. What was it, the Mars One project? And they were talking about going and stuff like that, and they didn't care. You know, they really didn't care. I'm sure they told him, by the way, this is going to be a one-way trip. So people are going, okay, I better make this really happen. And we're dead people. And, you know, you'd have to bring your own stuff, grow your own food, you know, live there. You'd be in suits. And of course, you'd be in structures as well. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see, though. Now, how many of you guys think that let's say they send people? Let's fast forward to 2030, 2035. They've got structures there. Now we're on Mars itself. Do you think they'll ever show pictures like, you know, like a couple of these guys are like taking pictures of like, you know, surface of Mars? Do you think they'll be darkened up? Do you think they'll ever show any photos like that? What do you guys think of that? I have, Brian. You said, Chris, have you seen the crop circles that were in the surrounding fields close to Stonehenge probably several years ago? I have. Now, it makes you wonder, you know, if you can. Now, a lot of people walked into these things, right? But it makes you wonder if you could go there yourself and actually, you know, for a fact they're there. So it makes you wonder, you know, are these all fake because they were thinking this is weird because like people have put up cameras, seen the area like this big field, and overnight something intricate's there in the morning. How the hell do these people have time? And these things are super large. They're not small. Like when the first crop circles were just round, now they're intricate. Makes you wonder, right? Um, and yet these things are super large and so intricate. How the hell do people do that? There's no way that can be done overnight, unless they had an whole army of people to do it. And even then, how do you get together without screwing it up? It would have to be this intricate plan to do that. Jack Package, you put in there, do you believe the binary code message from the Rendlesham or Rendlesham Air Force Base incident in the 80s? I know they had that binary code message in that crop circle. I know that. And like I said, it was decoded and stuff like that. And yeah, that was pretty funky as far as Rendlesham, you know, Air Force Base incident. That was the ones I believe that they actually seen the craft come down. They went over there, they touched it, and you can see like these drawings and stuff or etchings on the craft and stuff like that. I think there were more pictures, right? Weren't they? There were symbols more than anything, weren't they? Bush Corey, you said, why do we never see any night photos on Mars? The day and night cycle are similar to us. They're very similar. They're only within 40, I think it's 40 minutes difference as far as day and night cycle because we have 24 hours. I think there's like 24:40, I think it is. Um, so, yeah, it's like 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes difference, I think it is. There actually are sunsets and sunrises that they have taken. Trying to remember which one is was it the opportunity that had it? I think it was opportunity and curiosity. You can put on there, just Google it. Just put sunsets on Mars or sunrises on Mars. And if you look at it, you can see a lot of red, but you can see blue in there as well. Think about that. Which is, they say, well, it's just the opposite from Earth because it's always like a reddish, you know, sunset or sunrise. But nonetheless, there's still an atmosphere on that planet. Crops look nice, and it's just art creating something to get the media. Well, that could very well be, Andy. Like I said, I've never been to it, but a lot of people have been there and seen these huge, absolutely huge, uh, you know, these crop circles. So I don't know. And people say they get this weird vibe when they're in them too. So, they're radioactive. Why would anybody go through all of that to do that, right? I don't know. Yep. Have a good night there, Clasio. I think that's how you pronounce it. Glad you were in there, and have yourself a good one there, right? Pat W. Yeah, but they don't find, but don't they find mathematical stuff in these circles? Well, that's what I'm saying. That one that had an alien head, and they broke it down, and it was a message to mankind and stuff like that. And a lot of these were just like designs. Now, some of them had what looked like DNA. Some of them had what looked like almost like solar systems kind of thing. Different other things mixed in there. It's just crazy stuff. Now, if it is the real deal, and the word is if it is the real deal, it makes you wonder, what are they trying to tell us? Now, of course, they're saying DNA, stuff like that. So, and I think it differed from ours slightly, whatever. So, yeah. GW, you put on there, and what is universal? What is no, and what is at universal and nothing? The first chemical elements came from question mark. Thoughts of space burns the human brain. It's as close to religious consideration as I get. Even creator needs creating, and that's what I'm saying. But people always said, you read some of these scientists, and they'll say, or can we just say that we always were? There is no creator. We just always were, which is still, you're still running into a brick wall when you think about it. You go, oh, but there had to be something that made it. You know what I mean? At some point, this is the reason why we're going out and we're looking. We're just, like I said, I always go back to the movie Prometheus, because the way they're just looking for the creators. Where was their planet? Why did they try to kill us off? Why did they kill us off at one point? Or were they going to? And she's following along trying to find these aliens and where their home planet. So it just goes on and on and on. Will she ever find the truth? No, at least she's not going to. But it just, again, we're always looking for the answers. Will we ever find it? Yeah, Bush Corey. Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure. My daughter actually got me this hat because you were asked, by the way, Chris, where'd you get your cap from? She had got me this. I said, oh man, that's sweet. Like I said, it says SpaceX on the back and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where she got it, to be truthful. I have to ask her. Oh, you think so, Pat? You put on there they think it was a binary message to ourselves from ourselves. I guess it's a possibility. Again, just to, like you guys have said earlier about kind of the media thing, like a media stunt trying to get all this stuff going on, right? Attention. Yeah, well, Andy, they have done that. They have actually brought Geiger counters into these things, and it set it off. And a lot of these crops, you can see where they burnt and not snapped. They were literally like almost like I had an elbow to it all of a sudden, like they were just melted there and then kind of bent over as opposed to being broken. So again, it makes you wonder, right? Ronnie Appleby. Yeah, that's a great question. Why can you never see in the distance on photos of Mars? It just stops. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. And I always said that they use this weird, um, you know, like you can see these fake backgrounds. It's supposed to be the Gale crater wall, or other mountains, or Mount Sharp, things like that. You always see that, but it always looks like so CGI'd. It doesn't even look. I think they're templates. I think, and they've been doing this since the moon photos. Look at the mountains in it. They're always fake looking. They're always like super fake. It's almost like there was things there and they just went plop and they dropped these on there. Why do I say that? Well, I remember somebody had analyzed a lot of these photos and they found the same exact these mountains, so to speak. There were smaller ones. There was a small one in between two. One was large, one was medium, and the other one was like real small. And they found it in like two or three other photos of different foregrounds. Now I said, okay, well, it makes sense. It makes sense if they were in a different angle. In other words, looking from this way as opposed to dead on. Well, obviously these mountains are still going to be there, right? Makes sense. But then they moved aside and, the same mountains. That makes sense. But then they said, no, they were in a totally different area at the time. And yet these mountains are still there. I think they're templates. I think there's things that literally standing up, and what they do is they drop these things on top so you don't see it. Same thing happens with Mars. They got these large items sitting there. What's the best thing to do? Drop like a background in the back. That's why it always looks so hazed out. It's always real crappy looking. It's washed out. At least that's what I believe. Maybe you guys have a different view of it, or, what are your thoughts on that? Christine Siebel, you put on there, Mars could be terraformed, couldn't it? Sure. That's what Elon Musk wants to do. He wants to let off a couple, nuclear bombs and get maybe the volcanic, eruptions going again, get the planet flowing again, so its blood, so to speak, get it flowing, and then, heat up the planet, and make an atmosphere, terraform it. I think that's already been started. I think that happened back in 1941. When he seen them 2 explosions, how do we know it wasn't us that did that? How do we know? Think about 1941, 2019. There's how much time for that radiation to settle? How do we know? I'm not saying it's true. It's pure speculation. But how do we know it wasn't? I don't know. Too coincidental, because he's talking about, well, we should terraform it. We want to go to the planet. We've been wanting to go how many years now? Again, we've been exploring Mars long before. We were doing this in the 50s. Same thing with, the Soviet Union. We're going there, doing flybys, trying to land on the planet. There's a lot of failures. Why are we going there? What is the point? How many millions of dollars are we spending to go there? And yet, there you go. So it makes you wonder, how do we know this wasn't done by us? Or just happened to be, this, oh, wow, trick of fate kind of thing. Oh, boy, I'm glad that happened. You know what I mean? If it was a civilization living on the planet and they did it to themselves, that's one thing. Can you imagine if it was a civilization at the time and it wasn't us? But if it was a civilization and we said, well, they got no means to protect themselves, why don't we just blow them up? You know what I mean? As crazy that may sound. I'm not saying it did. It's just pure speculation. But if they did, and then they send a missile over there, something like the concoction of every germ we possibly have on the planet, so whatever doesn't get burned can get killed off in some kind of germ warfare. How do we know? I mean, it's not like we've never done that to any people here on this planet, right? We wouldn't do that. It's not far-fetched. I'm not saying it happened. I'm just saying it's just kind of weird. Is that a possibility? Michael Stark, NASA will never show any real pics of Mars or any planetary bodies. Information is the most valuable resource in the universe. People are too greedy to share vital information with each other. I believe that's true. You're right about that, Michael. Yeah. Well, I mean, but here's the thing. If, again, they have this united federation, so to speak, of, space agencies, then they're sharing amongst themselves. And this is the one, they're leading the way to go check out these other planets, these moons, our moon, so on and so forth. And the desire for information, knowledge, this is what they want. And now if there is a ancient civilization on Mars and they've been pulling it apart, at least trying to see everything they can with the rovers, makes sense. We want the technology if it's there. Makes perfect sense to me. I would. I said I would do everything I could to get there. If I knew it was there, I'd do everything I could to go there and analyze this stuff. If I can't send a man, I'm going to send a machine. One way or the other, I'm going to get the information. Ian Walton, check out the video from the Indian Space Center. It has a massive city in the background, unedited. Yeah, I think I was watching. Were you talking about when they were actually showing it going down, or was it? Trying to remember because there was two. I saw two parts of it where it looked like it was going over the moon, but it was an animated craft, and then it showed. And there was like two parts of the moon that they were showing. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Andy said, how many decades have they been talking about Mars? Decades. It has more unmanned probes on it. Most of what isn't working No more, and some new ones sent there. Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of the countries over there now. But what's the point? We've been there and said, there's no life. It's dust. It's nothing but a dusty planet. No atmosphere at all. No rain. Well, at least at the time, they were saying there's no water on Mars. Nothing there to be seen. Why are we going there? Why are people spending millions upon millions of dollars to go there? Even though India can do it cheaper. Other countries can do it cheaper than us, which is fine. Why are we going there, though? What's the point? It's a dead planet. Well, we want to see if there was life. What for? What's the point? Okay, let's say you said, well, there used to be building blocks. There was building blocks of life on that planet one time. Okay, now what? How does it? What does that say? What does it do? Where do you go from here? Because if it's uninhabitable, or you can't inhabit the planet at all, what's the point? I mean, it makes no damn sense. There's a reason why they want to go there. Let's say, for argument's sake, they go there and they've seen the hell was that, little trilobites or whatever it was. There was something that was some weird thing that was there. And what they do is they took the rat tool from the Curiosity rover, and they caught this. The scientists caught this. They did this. They took the rat tool, which is a rock abrasion tool. That's what it stands for. And they literally they ground off this side of this rock that had that, like a fossil type thing in the rock. And they were pissed about it. What would you guys do that for? Why don't we explore that more? Didn't want anybody to see it. Totally blasted it right off. Why? So there was life on that planet, one form or another. Renee, you put on there, yes, Chris, who knows? It was the Nazis who went to Mars in 1941. Was it World War II? Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They even said they went to the moon too, right? How do we know? Like I said, I think if once we went the first time, it should be nothing to go if you improve your spacecraft, improve your life support, meaning make it last longer, so on. I don't think anything's too far-fetched. Nothing can be, you know what I mean? The sky's the limit, so to speak. I mean, if you got all the right equipment, you got everything working in conjunction, everything's working smooth, what planet can't you get to? Think about it. Ash Richards, you put what about Antarctica, Chris? Are these structures there, or are there even more going on? Well, again, if you go back to prior to the ice cap, right, or the ice that's on Antarctica, just like Greenland or Iceland, you get all the. Who's to say? Well, we already know this, but when you think about it, at one point there was no ice on these bodies of land, right? So why couldn't there be inhabitants there, ancient structures, so on and so forth? Absolutely can. And the ice age came, and of course it buried everything. And now that it's melting off and everything, and we're starting to see all of these things. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's ancient structures there. There's plenty of people have been shown this. We just seen what looked like that alien face or that weird face in Antarctica. Yeah, why not? Just because it was frozen over, people go, oh, well, clearly there can't be any life there. Why? There was a time there was before ice. So why couldn't you have structures there? Why couldn't there have been people living there too? Makes absolute sense to me. Clerks 93, there is no way that the universe started with an explosion. How is everything so perfectly spaced like Earth and the moon, or distance of the sun and Earth, and how perfect the shadow eclipse covers the sun? Well, absolutely. I don't believe that's the case either. The only thing they have the theory is that because they have what they call red drift, and that the atmosphere, but the universe is still expanding. So it's expanding in all directions. So what does that tell you? Somehow there was some kind of force that just pushed everything outward. Now, whether it was the Big Bang and then everything, just formed after that, I don't know. Dry throat. Hate it when that happens. That W, it's not a prison planet. It's the government inside the government controlling it, pulling the strings. Well, like I said, it's the people that really own this planet, right? The Rockefellers, the military that says what goes and what doesn't. These guys I'm sure they're under close scrutiny, and they're saying, this is what you need to say. Now, I would love to be in that CGI department of JPL. Can you imagine that? Oh my God. Because what do you need? I think back in the day, let's just rewind a little bit. They were saying about the moon. They said, well, the reason why we CGI is to make it more aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. Oh, bull. You know what I mean? How about just take a picture with a camera, bring down the light, you know, and show the real photo. Same thing with Mars. They'll always say, well, what we did is we take them in this RGB. Well, no shit. It's the same thing every camera takes it in. Red, green, and blue. Just take a normal photo with a normal camera. Let it. Well, we have to do it in these wavelengths that the human eye can see. Okay, again, use a regular camera so we can have normal photos. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, well, they're only 2 meg photos. I think that's horse shit. I think it's bull. And I think that they got the nice crystal clear photos. They're bigger than a 2 meg picture. They say, well, it's because of the data that can be sent back. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case at all. Again, these guys got to do everything they can to not only see the information on Mars, meaning the best camera they can put on there, which was made by Caltech. Best camera they can possibly put on these crafts, because we got the MRO, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter out in space, which can take a picture right down to 4-foot swath on the ground. And in the cameras on the rovers, they're going to put the best cameras they can possibly put. Why? Because they want to see these objects. They want to see these things. Now we need to get it back to Earth. It's got to be the most dependable way to get it back here. And we need the biggest files we can get back. So what it does is it literally uplinks from the Curiosity rover up to the orbiters. And then once the orbiter is close enough as it's orbiting or Mars, here's Earth. It comes around. Perfect. It sends the information, shortest distance. That's how we get the information, but it gets uploaded to the actual crafts. There's more than one, orbiting Mars. So yeah, like I said, I think they're seeing much more than what they'll ever tell us. But I think eventually it's starting to leak out more and more through either people like myself or other people, these other scientists, like the one that says ex-NASA scientists accused the space agency of garbling images to hide things. That kind of goes into the no crap category. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, Jack Package, you're right. You said I'd much rather see the real thing, even in bad quality, than CGI crap. They're full of it, and I agree. I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree more. I'd rather see a lousy photo, but actually see the real deal as opposed to a CGI made up piece of shit. I was going to say trash at the same time. Custom Tailored One. Hi everyone. What's going on? Good to see you in there. Mort Piat, you taking off? You said, see you, Chris. Well, good seeing you in there, Mort. You have yourself a good night there, right? I'm sorry. Hold on, let me go back. There you go. Michael Stock, you put in there, agreed, Chris. Race for tech is real. Question is, would those who get the power of tech use it to benefit all people or milk the public for their money? My guess is it's the money and self-preservation. And I think you're right. And like I said, we do get watered down things, technology from, like fiber optics, microwaves, so on and so forth. It gets watered down from science, stuff they maybe find out themselves. It gets watered down to the public, which sucks. I mean, you wish you could see it like firsthand, right? But yeah, that's what it's all about. Who can get the most technology? Think about it. If you get it all yourself, you know what I mean? And who knows what we're currently the only ones, no, we got SNL on there too. On the Martian surface, right? So we got the Mars Insight, we got the rovers, we got other countries orbiting. So I think it comes down, like I said, that's what makes me believe they're all working together in a sense. And I don't mean like this evil way, but they're just working. They're just not telling the public what they're finding. That's all. So it makes sense. Roy, Sarah, our origins here on Earth is covered by the Sahara Desert. Yeah, they say this. Well, I'm trying to remember. It rings a bell. What were they talking about before? Something about the Sahara Desert. I don't know if there's something underneath it they were talking about. See to me that goes back years though, doesn't it? Ian Walton, you said too many cities to be seen, Chris. Yeah, I mean, if not cities, stuff that's in them, one way or the other. It's crazy. Yeah, too bright or too dark, BS. Absolutely. Thanks for your answer, Chris. It is abnormal that they do not want to share these discoveries with people interested in these things. Really stupid. What reason to hide it? Um, like I said, if it comes to anything technological, makes sense. You can bet the military's involved. Because let's suppose it was a civilization that really had nothing technological. It was just like very crude stone structures and stuff like that. I wonder if they. What do you guys think? Do you think they would actually say anything about those? Let's say there's nothing technologically advanced. It could be anything to do with vehicles, buildings like we have, anything like that. What do you guys think? Do you think they'd say anything about even stone structures? Like Jean Ward, he has like a lot of these things on his channel. He's got a lot of interesting stuff where he shows what looks like these overhead, it looks like these structures, like stone structures, and there's more than one, and they'll have like different things on them. Do you think they would tell the public about those? Let's say there's nothing there to gain as far as technological. Maybe it's just stone structures. Rene Cruz, extraterrestrial aliens, whoop, 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 pump it up. Hit that like button, guys. Smash the hell out of that thing. I did that one time. I think I broke the keyboard, break the mouse. That'd be bad. I've got extra ones. We're good. Yeah, it's a great comment. Even Jack says, "I'm thinking the same thing, Andy. If there's nothing up there, then why not put live cameras so we can watch? Any true scientist and explorer would do that, but they don't. Suspicious, and that's what I'm saying, guys. It makes sense to me. I don't know. It just makes more sense if you wanted, like a lot of people say, well, they would get more funding if they could do that. Even if it was very short live feeds. In other words, you did it for like 5 minutes because there is that data thing, right? Live would be like a lot. That'd be a lot of data, but that may come sooner, right? You put in a spacecraft that's got better link ups and stuff like that, faster speeds, so on and so forth. But they're also thinking about laser. Now you can put a lot of information in light, like our fiber optics we have here on Earth. You've got cable, you got fiber optics or internet. It's all through light, signal through light. Now, and I know these, and I've read this about this, they were working on something to do with laser transmissions where, I mean, it's a beam of light. How fast does it take to get here? And you can put so much more information in this laser or in this light than a lot more than radio waves. Quicker, faster, more reliable. There you go. Why the hell do I have 9 followers? What are invisible? That's a good question mark. Yeah, you're right. Martian Sunset, you said, so you think NASA may be committing out and out fraud. I wonder whose decision it is. Does NASA have plausible deniability? Well, again, I think it's the DoD, Department of Defense, or the military itself. And from what I understand, is JPL, not NASA, that's actually has this CGI department. They're the ones doing all the work to cover this stuff up. So it makes you wonder who's telling them to do this. Has to be the military. If there's something to gain from this planet, and again, it's technological. It makes sense to me. They want it for themselves. Now, whether it's just simple stuff or they just want to see how they, let's say it's, I don't know, let's say it's a transport that they use on the planet or used at one point. Let's see what made it tick. Let's see what made it go. Let's see what it did this just out of curiosity thing. And maybe we can implement it here on our planet. Or it was weapons or it was structures. Who the hell knows what's on there, right? And of course, it's pure speculation. We don't know. But if that's the case and it's technological, yeah, makes perfect sense that they're hushing this stuff purposely. Ronnie Appleby, you put on the race to become technologically advanced between Earth and Mars. We won Mars nuke now. We are being watched. UFOs being sighted has increased. Yeah. Yeah, I heard that about that too. They said something about plasma for for transmissions. I'm not sure how true that is though. MG Toe, thumbs up, everyone. Hit it. No knowledge should be held by a select few. Well, they feel they have to. I don't know why. Like I said, just give us something small. You know, we found, like I said, small organics on the planet, or something simple like that. Start off with something small. You know, they've already started. Remember, way back in the day, there's no water on Mars. Nope, it's totally void of it. Then wait a minute, there's actually liquid water underneath the dirt. You know, and I forget how much there was per square foot, or I forget what they used in measurements, but and then all of a sudden, well, then now there's a lot more. Now we found, I mean, and I've been saying this for a long time, that there's a water cycle by just, noticing the pictures, the certain clouds, um, different aspects of water and stuff like that. The way they have the cycles like we have here on Earth. You look in the uh, you look at planet Earth, look at the poles in certain seasons, and watch how the polar caps grow and watch how they shrink. It's the same thing on Mars. Doesn't change. It's the same thing here. We have pretty much the same seasons as that Mars does that we do. Okay. Now they say, oh, yeah, there is a water cycle on Mars. And yes, there is this. There's actually oxygen on Mars. Not as thick as you'd like it, of course. At least that's what they're saying. But, you put all this stuff together. They had Martian rain. They had, there's a water cycle there. And like I said, even one of the scientists on the Curiosity team has said the same thing. Yes, there's a water cycle in Gale Crater. Absolutely. Oh, geez. That's a good one. MJ 420 times, well, X, was looking on Google Earth Pro at Mars and saw a place labeled birthplace of Hillary Clinton. Oh, God. That is a good one. Michael Stark, probably not, Chris, just revealing that any intelligent life exists outside of Earth puts huge pressure on NASA to reveal all their lies. Lies are so deep, it's never impossible to dig themselves out. Well, yeah, it's near impossible. I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because then they're going to say, oh, shit, we're going to have to tell them we've been lying all this time, right? Now what do we do? Yeah, totally agree. But like I said, if they just squeak out just a little information at a time, because they could just say, well, you know what, guys, we just happen to be rolling the Curiosity and we decided to take a different route, and I'll be damned if we didn't find some shrubbage or something like that. We found some kind of small trees, and there is actually organics. We didn't believe we could actually find this, but there it is, lo and behold. Why not? Why not? Absolutely, Ian. Knowledge is power. Absolutely. Knowledge is power, and if you can gain that technology, it's even more power because now you have it in your hand, right? Andy Summers, you put, I've not seen a satellite in the night sky for a while as they are so small in the size due to the altitude above Earth. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize these things are so darn small, right? They're like half the size of a compact car, right? They're so small, and people think, oh, I'm going to see these things with ease. But if you don't have any light pollution, street lights and house lights and all kinds of stuff, and you're like, you just go up in it, because I do this every now and then. Go up in the mountain next to my house, just lay there, man. You wouldn't believe the shit you can see in the sky. You see all these little things just traveling. And I'm not talking about planes where you can see the strobes on them and stuff like that, red and green and regular clear strobe lights and stuff like. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about things way up. You can just see them traveling, just flying by. Now, whether there's giant space rocks just hurling by Earth or satellites or whatever they may be, never can tell. Just don't know. Yeah, Claire Mead. Yeah, you said, what right have humans got to nuke another planet? Well, it's the same It's the same right I think they have when they nuke other countries. You know what I mean? Of course, that happened in the past, at least atomically. But the whole thing is, it's just like, you know, can you imagine though, if they just looked at these people like that and said, they got no way to protect themselves. Let's go ahead and just waste them. And, just so we can have the planet for ourselves and everything that's on it. Again, pure speculation, of course, but that would be something really, sad to see or hear about. Our planet space programs are a little over 50 years old, yet people think we should be flying around the galaxy in starships. That's true, MG Toe. But keep in mind, we did have them way back in the day, right? We had the Apollo missions, and again, you can almost bet that it's kind of like, when the first car, right? A lot of them electric back in the 1894, I think it was, or two. Um, you got the electric car. Well, let's make an engine. Made an engine. Look at where we are now in X amount of years. We're not even talking, X amount of years, and look at the hell we got. Of course, it's over a course of 100 years, but it's not the point. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, you look at the time span, look how far we've leaped, and just technology and building stuff and cars and so on and so forth. It wouldn't surprise me they just kept on building secretly. They can do it secretly, and then they can just do their own thing behind closed doors, and they're not going to stop. If they made it to the moon, they go, how can we make it? It's kind of like if you build a race car. Well, how can I make it 2/10 faster? Well, you can put bigger heads on it. Massage the heads, put bigger cam, bigger headers, so on and so forth, dyno it, so on. So you're going to want to make it faster, more efficient, because some people actually like to drive their own cars. Like my brother has a 71 Monte Carlo with a 454, completely street legal, no problem at all, and then races it. So, you know what I mean? So it's a nice car to drive. I don't think I'd want to do it every day because the gas mileage sucks, but not the point. Point is, we're always trying to push the envelope, always trying to do better. That's true, Ian. Yeah, Chris, it's a snowball because they've covered up so much for so long. And you're absolutely right. Totally agree with you. Yep. And it could very well be, Ronnie. Yeah. Do you think we are being prepared for Disclosure Air Force showing footage of UFOs from years back? Well, I mean, there's been UFOs. People have shown these things in pictures, even in these old photos or old paintings they've got in churches where they show looks like UFOs in the sky and people looking up at them and stuff like that. And in this release of this video from the Pentagon, what's the story? Why don't they just keep that under wraps? Why even bother? But I think they might have got a different source, and that's what was happening. They were afraid it was going to come out, and this is the reason why they said just go ahead and let it out, or there was another motive behind it. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Paul McKenzie, good night. I hope you got the video link about traveling to Mars. I'll definitely check it out, Paul. I appreciate it, man. Have yourself a good night there, right? All right, guys, we're going to jump on out of here. Appreciate everybody being here. It has been 2 hours and 45 minutes. You guys are awesome. I'm glad you came. The real Jimmy Robbins, now you step in. Oh, that's good to see you in there, brother. You are, Leo. I was just ready to jump off, man. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes we've been on this. Like I said, hit me up anytime on Facebook. Be glad to talk to you. Eamon Barr, hi from Northern Ireland. I appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for stopping in. P&K Space Agents, good to see you there, brother. Or you guys. I'm not sure if both of you's on there right now. Good hangout. Got to go stream now. Take care all. Appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work there, right? In your latest video, there was a comment about the sky being blurred. Have you ever seen anything strange in the skies? A lot of the stuff you got, like I said, you got mountains in the background. You've got a lot of times you'll have like a burnt pixel in the back. You've got the artifact and the left mass cam. I think it's it's a nav. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, so don't shoot me, guys. But there's an artifact that people mistake as a UFO, but really not a whole lot of things. I have seen like what look like small things flying in the air. Might have been like an insect. Why? When you darken the photo, you can see what looks like a blur spot right behind the direction it's going. So if it's going up this way, there's like a blur behind it. And if it's going the other way, there's a blur behind it. So it makes you wonder, what's that moving? People will say, well, it's nothing more than dust. Okay. One dust particle in the whole darn photo makes no sense to me, right? So, you know, I don't believe that's true. I found, I think I've done a couple videos on that, in fact, about, um, these insects will look like insects or something flying by the camera. Now, we don't know how close this thing is to the camera. So is it something very far off or is it something closer? We don't know. So that part's a guess, but something flying by the camera, that's not a guess. There's something there, right? So yeah. Oh, I got you, Jimmy. I got you. Yeah, that happens. I get that every now and then. I got two computers right here sitting here on the desk, and I'm watching everybody in there, the live feed through that one. And sometimes you get quirkiness and definitely want to step on it, right? Yep, Jimmy is in the house. The real Jimmy Roberts one is in the house. I am, Ian. You said, wow, you're starting early. I have. I decided because all the fine folks over there across the big pond over in Europe and so on and so forth. I was starting at 7 p.m., but I figured I'd make it a little bit easier for these guys. Anybody want to step in at least a couple hours earlier. And then, you know, they can actually view it. They can be part of it too, right? Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm glad you stopped in there, Jimmy. I appreciate you being there. Um, we'll catch you all next time. I'll be prepared. Yeah. Awesome. I'm new. What do you do? Name unavailable. I like that. It's a good one. Basically, we take photos from Mars, the moon, anything from NASA, JPL, NASA. I was going to say NASA. Get it? Combine the two, ESA and NASA. You got ESA, European Space Agency, any kind of space agency. We can analyze the photos. If we see something that's out of place, we actually try to bring it out and show the public. That's basically in a nutshell, right? What PR? Two of the best channels on YouTube. Yeah, I've always said this, and I've well now that Jimmy's here, I've said this before. What I like about Jimmy, just shoots straight from the hip, tells it like it is. Now people, like I said, not everybody has to agree with him. Not everybody, and I've said this about me. Nobody has to agree with me either. This is the reason why I encourage people to get the photo themselves, and he does the same. My buddy Will from What's Up in the Sky 37 was doing the same thing as well. And the whole point is like I analyze the photo. I give you guys the link. You guys take it, digest it, research it, do what you got to do, come to your own conclusions. You might find something totally different from what I find. Same thing applies to anybody who does this. So that's why I encourage everybody to grab the photos that I leave in the links because I'll put mine in the, I'll post a comment right there and I'll pin it right in the comment section so everybody can see the links that I share. Everybody can have a look at anything I shared in the video. You can see in there. So this way people can grab it, research it themselves, have a closer look. And if you guys are, well, a lot of you guys are doing it now, put it in Photoshop, doing it yourself and bringing out some crazy things. You guys have showed me on Facebook. You guys are like, oh man, check this out and look what I found. Some awesome stuff. So I give you guys kudos for that, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Ian, fair enough, Chris. We'll be here at 7 a.m. next week. Well, yeah, I hate to see it like, late for you guys. I hate to do that to you, but we're going to do what we can to uh, maybe even make it a little bit earlier. But keep in mind, Sunday is the only day I have off. I've got Saturday, I work up to around 12-ish. Then I got the afternoon, then I got Sunday. I work 5 days a week, 6 days a week, rather. So it's a little tough, but I try to get out it's around 1 o'clock-ish and get the stuff down. Oh, you do, Jimmy? No doubt. I don't know if you guys can guess this one. Check this out. Pretty easy stuff. Pretty easy, but pretty good. Uh, Yeah, Jimmy said on the exactly. We must get the basic concept out there to be to the people. The Mars that Mars was once inhabited at the very least. The rest is arguable. What is what? But one fact needs to be worldwide. Well, it's like I've always said. Listen, I might interpret something totally different than somebody else may interpret. That's the whole thing. Now, and I've said this a million times. We can't vet this stuff because we can't go out there. We can't handle it. We can't touch it. We can't do anything with it. So what do? It's basically you're just trying to, bring to light what you think it may be, and that's what it's all about. And again, what I see, some people go, "Well, I don't see it that way. I see it like this." And you know what? There's no real right answer. There's no real right or wrong answer. It's, what you see with your own eyes. Maybe you're seeing something different. Sometimes you guys, and we talked about this earlier, guys, where you guys have seen something that was, you say, Chris, you totally avoided that thing or you didn't see it. No, a lot of times I try to bring out the biggest things I see in the photo so everybody else can see it with ease. And, of course, you don't want to make a 3-hour video either or, things like that. Because a lot of people like a long video, but then some of them, rather not. So I guess it depends on their lifestyle and how they want to, they just want to see something quick. They want to see something, depends on the people, right? George Mayer, good to see you in there, brother. You have yourself a good night there as well. Roy Cyriliz, I guess I'm pronouncing that wrong. Chris, thanks for everything. Love the channel. See you next weekend. Appreciate you, Roy. Thanks for being here. Yeah, that was a good video, Jimmy, showing the 3D effect. I watched that yesterday, in fact. And but that's the best way to do it. Actually do this, and you can actually see the pictures come together. That's pretty sweet. GW, get rested, Chris. Loving your channel. I will be because, like I said, I got to rock and roll tomorrow early and get physical. Pat W, have yourself a good night, man. Good seeing you there. All right, guys, I'm going to jump on here. Funk Mastered Dub. Speak to you again soon. Good night again from England. Appreciate you being there, brother. Good to have you in there. You're right, Jimmy. It does. It changes everything, man. It changes your perspective because you get that depth. And that's the whole idea, to bring that depth out to people. Because a lot of it, like I said before, it actually just take out any shadows or darker areas out of photo. What do you get? Well, it almost looks flat. Your photos look flat. And that's the whole thing. Once you take out the shadows and any dark lines, everything almost looks flat. And that's what you got to try to put back in or get the 3D effect going on so you can actually see it a lot better. I think it would actually go sweet if you could do both. Bring your shadows back or the dark lines to these objects and then make a 3D rendering, and then everything will really pop. So yeah, pretty sweet. All right, guys. Like I said, I'm going to jump on out of here. Thanks, Jimmy, for jumping in there. Get a hold of me on Facebook. We'll talk. And like I said, everybody here, thanks for being there. You guys are awesome. Again, if it wasn't for you guys, this channel would not be here. So I appreciate all the support and you guys being here. It's a great turnout as always. You guys are the best. I love when everybody's talking amongst with each other, as well as the questions and everything else we get to answer. We all learn something new every day, right? That's the whole idea. If you don't learn something new today, you haven't learned anything. You stop growing. Anyway, guys, have yourself a good night. Good seeing you all in there, and I'll see you soon. Peace.